legal language is in the planning board ones. That's why it's 34 pages.
Good evening and welcome.
Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to the Finance and Advisory Board meeting of April 2nd. Call the meeting to order at 7:05. To start the meeting, we've got a full agenda tonight with looking at the warrant articles, voting, and then looking at the budget afterwards. We have a number of department heads with us. I would like to have any board's questions for department heads in regards to CIP articles discussed first. Does anybody have any questions on any of the CIP articles or any of the warrant articles that it may relate to their departments?
Oh, actually, I did have one.
Okay.
Those heat pumps, how much are they each? Are they 50,000 each? There's 4 of them you have to do?
There's more than 4 of them.
Oh, okay, but do you know how much they are each, is the
I
question?
thought initially we did replace a couple this year. I
Yeah.
thought they were like 5,500 each. Wasn't that what Mike said? And then it's like, that's what it cost to buy them, but then it was like so many thousands of dollars to install them.
Wow.
I wish Mike was here.
Because it's 200,000.
It's a lot of money.
I think there's 13 of them.
I thought there were more than 10.
I
so-
thought it was like a dozen.
But we must have filled out paperwork on that, right? Mike?
Oh, okay, I guess I
You know what? You
didn't
have it.
look.
I thought
Okay,
they submitted it. 'cause I
I'm
thought-
sure you did.
I've got Mike Anderson's.
All right, okay, we'll check on it then. I thought there were just a couple of them.
I don't have the detail on this. All I have is the CIP request.
Wait a minute.
That's all we got.
That's all we got.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, hold on, we might have this.
35 rooftop heat pumps.
Yeah, there were a lot.
35.
35
How much
for
is it?
200.
35 in total?
Yeah, the 35 rooftop heat pumps units have exceeded their useful life and require replacement.
Okay.
They consist of both an indoor fan section and outdoor rooftop section. They provide both heating
35
and cooling
units.
for classroom office spaces.
Neat.
Doesn't have an individual cost.
Okay, so this has,
Oh, please, if I was up.
well, it says over the last few years, we've replaced 5 units. So you have 35 in total, so you have 30 left to replace, or you have 40 in total and 35 to replace?
I actually thought there were 50, so I wrote them up there, 'cause
You what?
I actually thought there were more than 50 up there, Sandy.
Oh, okay.
just like that some of
okay.
them were working.
We can
but there's
ask
a lot
Mike.
of them- And Mike would be happy to
Mike
tell
would
us all
know,
this.
okay.
But this was discussed as part of the feasibility study, because I'm sure the question might be, why wasn't this done as part of the discussion with, the renovation project, but.
They
you
wouldn't pay
remember,
for it,
Jim,
I
it
bet.
wa- Remember, it was discussed, you were at one of the meetings?
I vaguely remember
Yeah,
this.
remember?
It was a
And,
long time ago,
It was,
Carol.
the MSBA was very clear that there were certain parts of the project that they believed we were funding without having to go through the whole SOI, statement of interest process. So that's how it ended up on this list.
Okay.
Could you ask Mike to give us just a quick thing of how many in total, how many have been replaced, how many underneath this particular article, and then an average cost per? And I guess that the other question is that, is the 200,000 because we're doing so many at once, and if we were to do, say, half the amount, is the cost really 100,000, or is it a different cost because of the volume?
Okay. Joan can text him. We'll see.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can, we can check
He's
with
probably
Mike
watching.
probably.
Yeah, plus there's a charge for the crane usage and all
That's,
that.
yeah,
Oh,
they
yeah,
may-
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're right, that
And I think that was,
That was
Expensive.
probably a lot, yeah. Oh, okay.
Right, and that's,
Yeah, okay, so we'll have to,
I think I sent you an email. Did you get it? No,
on,
on this, about the crane, that if you divide it in half, you have to pay for the crane
you have to
twice.
pay for the
Pay for crane.
crane twice.
And some of the installation charges also.
That could be, yeah, that could be. Okay.
okay. Any other questions?
Has Mike and Carol gotten together on the IT thing?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Carol, do you wanna come up with Mike?
Hi, Mike.
Meeting you here.
Fancy meeting you here. We've been meeting a lot today.
Yeah, we met with
Roger,
Roger Michelson this morning at the suggestion of Joe. And we let him know what we were looking for.
This is an IT consulting
Yeah,
firm.
yes. I don't
B-
remember his
B-
name. He just had some
They
letters.
were all little letters.
Yeah.
Yeah. No
After his
capital
name,
letters.
you go.
No, it just seemed strange to me. Do you know what company he works for? 'Cause he.
Joe,
It's called Brady Network Management.
Brady Network Management.
Yeah. Short, they do BNMC.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Carol, you had, he had most of it, we were talking mostly about the efforts at the school and,
So here's what we did. We basically, he came in and we first heard a little bit about his company, what they do. And basically, after a lot of conversation about this, what they basically do is they manage hardware infrastructure. And they do 80% of their work they do remotely. If they can't fix it remotely, then they send a technician out. So he taught, then we explained what we have, like the technicians we have already in the district and how we manage it all. And then, he basically said that this is what they do. They do the hardware management, and they would replace the equipment on a rotating basis if that was what we wanted, and they would manage that
they call it hardware as a
as
service.
service.
And that's exactly what we have on the town.
Hardware as a service.
As a
Yes.
service.
We
So-
don't own anything, we don't lease anything, they own everything.
Right, that's how they do it for the town, and he explained that because he's an IT guy, that he lives in Winchester, I think he said, and the schools don't have a technology coordinator in that particular district, but the town does. So the town has a point person, similar to the one I'm talking about, that helps manage manages the efforts for the town, and he, as an IT guy, does a lot of pro bono work for them, helping them with some of their strategic planning and that kind of stuff. He said that they do provide sort of high-level strategic thinking, and they could come in and they could say, oh, this is what we think you need, but they don't manage the plan. They don't manage the day-to-day operation of the plan. They don't. They would work with our staff, but they would not be here working with the staff. They would do it from a remote location.
You're
So
talking about the educational plan.
I'm talking about what this guy says that he does.
What is the plan? He doesn't manage the plan.
Oh, if we have like a set of priorities, like a technology plan, a longer range plan, what they would do is they would help, drive some of the thinking around that plan, like what might work. But then in terms of the ongoing management of the plan, that doesn't fall within their bailiwick.
So you would tell him or the company that you want, I don't know, 100 units or whatever it may be, right? And then he would set up a program to manage 100 units.
Yep, just like what the town does with
Okay.
Boston
Systems
Systems Solutions. I never get that
BSS.
right.
Okay.
And does this plan, would the management include like the basics of Microsoft Office, Outlook, things like
Yeah,
that?
just like they do with the town. He does exactly what Red Kelly's company does.
Right.
And he emphasized that what they basically do is who they work with is municipals and businesses, generally speaking. Because I asked him, I said, do you work with schools? And he said, well, we would consult with the school or we do exactly what we talked about. If you wanted somebody to come in, set up your hardware infrastructure, we could do that. We could come in, help you assess where you are. We could come in, help you with maybe come up with some strategic, ideas on where you might go. But he was pretty clear after the conversation, because we went over kind of what the schools needed, and he agreed. He said what the schools need is different than what the town needs. So he said, you need a technology coordinator, is what he said in the meeting today. But he said he would recommend an assessment be done, not a study, not a big $100,000 study, but an assessment where they would come in, if his company or any company would come in, they would take a look at everything. They would look at the hardware, software, the switches, the all the stuff. They would look at our staff, who we have for staff, what they do now, and then they'd be prepared to make a recommendation of, you know, what they think going forward would be in the best interest, you know, of the
Like
town.
Mac versus PC, Smartboard.
Yeah, well,
Smartboard
I didn't get the
versus-
impression he was prepared to make a recommendation necessarily, but he'd talk about what we had, and he might make some recommendations, but he was pretty clear, he wouldn't steer it. He wouldn't steer the whole thing.
So you gotta tell him what you want.
Exactly.
Well, basically.
First, we need to know, he wants to know what we have.
Yeah, they come in and there's assessment and then there's a strategic plan. They do the assessment.
Okay.
And the assessment is basically, they come in with, they have software, you know, hardware engineers, you know, high-level people, but they stick a thumb drive in your computer and it downloads all the information, you know, the types of software on the machine, the age, the malwares, all the different things that need to be updated, the updates for the operating systems. And then, I mean, this is exactly what we had done by BSS.
Right.
And that's the basis for hardware recommendations.
Okay.
Which we could
Hardware
use,
recommendations based on what you have now.
just based on what we have
Right,
now and
yeah.
what we need. And part of what he would talk about would be, what do you want to do with the machines? Because obviously what Mike needs to do with the town's machines is he needs people to be able to have reliable machines that have the software they need loaded on them to be able to do their job efficiently. We need that as well, but we also need the ability to really look at the instructional software and how we're using it as a tool for learning, and it's a different parameter.
It seems to me that you need a little high, is that what the strategic plan is? You really need kind of a higher level look at the school system, and what is it you're trying to do, and what's the latest and best way to do it.
That's right, that's
You
right.
may, I mean, for instance, PCs in some instances might not be
Right.
necessary for what you have,
That's
what you
right.
need. And is that the strategic plan?
Yes, that would be
Oh,
the
okay.
strategic plan.
And we had a 5-year strategic plan that's, you know, pretty thick. I mean, I'd be happy to share it, although it'd be tough to read, you know, one setting. And we actually have been following that strategic plan for 5 years. The problem is we had no money. So thankfully, we had places like the GEF and the PTA, and the principal did Square One Art, and parents wrote checks for smart boards to go in teachers' classrooms, and there were, every school committee meeting, we accept more donations from parents to be able to put, you know, laptops. And so without all that, we really would be, and we leased some money. The override helped us with a couple of upgrades on some of our labs at the high school that were really well below standard.
Right,
So
but that was 5 years ago when that could, itself could be used
that's
updating,
old.
because so much has changed.
5 years
In
old, yeah.
5 years is a long time
Yeah.
these
no,
days
it
in
is. In
technology.
technology, it is.
So
So,
are they gonna come back with a price, so it's 25,000 for an assessment, are they gonna come back with a price for a strategic plan?
no, well,
didn't talk
we didn't
about
talk
that.
about that. What we did talk about was that he said he would put together a proposal to look at the,
To do an.
to do an assessment.
Do an assessment.
And
He said it would
he
take
said
about a
it'd be
month.
between 20 and 25.
Yeah.
He was just
Yeah.
shooting from his hip. I
Right.
said, I won't hold you to it.
No, no.
What about a
Just give us a
strategic
ballpark.
plan then?
Well, we
We
didn't.
we
didn't-
never really talked about that.
Well, I think what we were thinking is that part of what he would look at, or whoever he's gonna bring in, would look at is, what do we have in place for a strategic plan? Rather than go write a new one, it may be,
Well, that's a
require an
good thought.
updating,
Yeah.
you know, of the plan we have. So that's kinda why we didn't go there.
Well, and my understanding is you can't have a strategic plan unless you know exactly
What
what
you're trying to-
you're trying to do
exactly.
first.
Well, that's the
right,
what you're
Joe.
trying to do.
So you need the
part, yeah.
assessment first, and then based
Yeah.
on the assessment, say, okay, all right, now we can form.
Well, but the assessment, as I understand it, is an assessment almost of their hardware and software, not an assessment of what do you really need to get to the education goals that
No,
you
he, no,
have.
part
right?
of this assessment, as I understand it, is he would talk to me, he would talk to our tech staff, he would talk to some key teachers, he would talk with the administrators, you know, and
To
that.
try to find out what they're trying to do with the.
Yeah,
har-
just
with
like
the-
Joe said.
technology. Oh, okay.
They would,
Yeah,
Oh, all
Find
right.
out.
Okay,
30,000
all right.
yes.
foot
Little
view,
bit.
it's
Oh,
not,
okay, all right.
Yes.
it's the really high view, and then the strategic
Yes.
plan gets down more
Yes.
into the,
Exactly. So, you know, we looked at a few things. Mike had been able to get his hands on the report that Boston Systems and Solutions did at the same time as they did one for the town, for the schools. So, you know, we looked at that, and this, from what I can read on this, it doesn't seem like it was a full inventory. There were some glitches in collecting the data. So, you know, they were talking about doing, this really talks about doing exactly what they do for the town. So it doesn't take into consideration the on-site, you know, troubleshooting, the need for training, you know, the things that we have in the job description, you know. And after I talked with Roger, who was great, by the way, he was very you know, he had a lot of good information, he listened, I think we had a nice exchange of information. But I took the job description and based on what he said, he does, of the 28 things, he does 7 of them. So that's my concern, and I think what he said in the meeting today was, it sounds like you do need somebody that's gonna be your point person, and then maybe you could work with a consulting firm, you know, like we talked about, a hybrid kind of thing, where maybe if we wanted to do something on the replacement of machines or something like that. But he also didn't realize we had some tech staff already. What his company does is they basically come in and they basically deploy their staff. Right, if there's a tech staff in place, they'll consult with them, but they're not the person that's gonna be their day-to-day. Like if you use the Mike Anderson analogy, they're not gonna be the Mike Anderson.
Right, no.
Right, no.
And I guess that the question would be, chicken and the egg.
Yes.
Are we better off doing a strategic plan and having the plan dictate what you need for this IT person in-house? Or better off hiring an IT person because you don't have really, and they're gonna do I'm just trying to think, where's the biggest bang for the buck?
Well, I think one of the things that I thought was interesting today was, if a company like his comes in and puts together the assessment, then if there's somebody that comes on board that's an IT person, then they don't have to do that. They can jump right in to get into the actually enacting the plan. You know, I think that's to be a duplication of effort. To have one of the things that the technology director did right away is do an assessment.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but what is the better road to take? Hiring a consulting firm to do the strategic plan, to lay everything in place, or hiring a body? And then a year from now, finding out you didn't hire the right body.
Yeah.
That's my biggest concern, is
Yeah.
that,
No, I
you know,
understand.
I'd rather, it's spending the money and then it not being
Well,
the right fit.
The only thing that worries me, Sandy, is I really don't want to hire somebody who's going to tell us what they think the plan should be, and then, you know, it's not driven by, you know, the people who are going to live the plan.
Oh, no,
You know what I
No,
mean?
you're right.
So,
Yeah,
so,
oh, yeah,
so
no,
what
absolutely
so what
true.
I like is the idea of, you know, depending on what we figure out, if it's full-time, half-time. I mean, the other data I did try to collect, because I really had an open mind to this. I don't think I think it was a great conversation we had last time. And that's why I really wanted to meet with Roger. But I think when we met with him, I kind of was hoping he was gonna be able to do more of what we're looking for. The things he could do for us he would do a great job, I can see that. I just don't think it's gonna go far enough. And he actually came to that conclusion too, the more we talked. He said, it sounds like you do need somebody to really do your day-to-day technology and pull things together. So what I did, and I'm happy to share it with anybody who'd like to see it, is I thought, well, where can I get some data, right? So I put out on the superintendent's listserv, because that people chime in. I asked 5 questions. So I asked, does your district have a technology coordinator or director? If so, do they work full or part-time? What are their top 3 most important functions? Because I know it's, you know, 28 things, but what are the top 3 things? Do you outsource any part of the technology functions? If so, which ones? And have you ever considered outsourcing the entire operation? Yes or no? And if no, why not? So what I then did is I just summarized it in a table, you know, so it just basically says, you know, just answers those questions, and then I have all the backup emails. I'm happy to share them with anybody who's got a question. Of the 28 districts that responded to me within the better part of 2 hours, there's only one, Webster, that doesn't have a full-time text director, and that's because they just have never been able to get it in the budget. So they outsource for the high-level stuff we're talking about right now, or not even the strategic planning, more the making sure that the network works, you know, if there's a new software upgrade, they'll put it in. But I think, you know, the information is kind of interesting. And the number one reason why people have not done it is
Have not done
that.
what?
Have not outsourced.
Okay.
Is because there's their fear that it's more expensive. Some have actually done it and then went back to their own person because they felt it was more expensive. That having immediate attention to the issues was important, that staff need daily support, that there's, let's see, no day-to-day, immediate attention, negligible cost savings. So I'm happy to share it. It's just some data that, you know, you might be interested in.
So,
One thing he said though, when we talked about, you know, paying somebody $75,000 a year,
Oh, yeah, this was interesting.
he said, at that level, you're gonna get a level 1 or 2 technician. And what you,
that's
what
our
we thought
concern.
too,
what you
yeah.
need is an engineer level, a 4 or 5 level person. And he said,
Why don't you
that's $100,000.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But then he did say, though, that because we're small, right, I mean, you know, we're small, that he said he thought it was on the low side. He didn't say he thought it was out of the ballpark. He said you might be able to get somebody for that, you know, but he said where you're gonna have trouble is getting a part-time person. He was clear on that. He said, you know, you can try it, but he said that's gonna be harder to get, because you're likely to maybe get somebody who's retired and wants to come out of retirement and work a couple of days a week or something like that.
well, I guess with Roger but there are other firms that do this type of work too,
I'm sure there are.
to look at this. And
But as
especially-
he said, this is why, he said, this is how these people generally work, that's how we do it. We generally provide those services. He said, there's no, I didn't get the impression from him there was any service that was willing to take on the day-to-day functions, you know, on-site, you know, doing the tasks that, so, you know, I do understand the challenge, but I'm just trying to identify the need. And I'm-
The
and I-
need,
and-
we understand the need.
And actually, some of these places, if you look at it, some of them share it with the town. And I said to Mike many times, since we've always been looking at these shared services, I said, if there's any place to share the services,
Yeah.
IT is the easiest one.
Oh, yeah.
IT is the easiest one.
And that's why I'm leaning more towards giving the money out of free cash to do the assessment, to do a strategic plan. And then next year, hire the right person. And it be both for town and school, that person is here. And maybe it's a person and a half. Maybe it's, you know, it's you know, you've got maybe hiring as a lower level technician and then somebody who's a little bit higher. And sharing a low level technician maybe with another town who can deal with some things. I guess just trying to get the best bang for the buck and get what you
Right.
need. I just don't want us to be short-sighted and pull a trigger on something and regret it.
No, but I'm telling you, we need some version of that now.
Yeah.
Whether it's a full-time person or not, we need some version of someone to take technology functions under their belt.
This year, you're saying.
I'm saying this year. And again, the school committee can wrestle with that, right? You're gonna give them a bottom line.
Okay,
And
because
if
that's the problem
And
we're
then, you know,
having.
That's-
then we're gonna have to figure it out, but honestly,
Okay.
you know, we're just trying to make the case. That you know, again, we kept everything else as low as we could. We reduced things in order to defend this position, which was the charge. So I just wanted to provide, I think we're all trying to just provide as much information as, and I understand your dilemma with the budget and the balancing, but, you know, I mean, I hope there can be some creative, you know, I was thinking about Wayne, you know, when he was talking about the other day about these one-time expenses, and, you know, I don't know if there's any way that you can take the stuff he pointed out in our budget, this $57,000 in our budget for those retirement things, and pay them out of free cash, because it's a one-time event, and then free up money in the budget in order to be able to allow for something like this. I don't know if that's possible to do, but to me, I mean, it's moving the shells, but, you know,
Okay,
It-
so
But that's,
let's-
I mean, that's certainly
I mean,
something that
just
we
to
would
try to,
look at,
just
I
to try to
guess.
fill
okay,
a
so
need.
we've got, the one-time payout is 57?
Well, it's 40 and, it's 40 and 15, so I think it was 57, what was it, Joan?
Round numbers are fine, I don't need an exact.
57.
57.
57 and
Retirement.
change. But that's a one-time thing. as you were pointing out. So I don't know if that would, allow us to move the shells in our budget.
If we were to do that, and you get the 37 left, let me think.
Right now, there's 37 in there.
Yeah.
The extra was
So
37.
you would end up at about 20 less than you are right now.
We might.
Well, I guess,
Right.
We'd-
That's right,
we'd
that's
have
right, it
to-
wouldn't be
we'd
the
have to
seven. Yeah, and
munge
I'm
on
not
the
asking you to
numbers.
make a decision, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
that might be a possible thing that you could maybe consider.
well,
would help.
and I'm gonna throw this out just to play devil's advocate, because that's what you and I do, Carol.
Yes, I know we do, Sandy. We will get to the right place eventually.
If you get the funding and you hire a full-time IT person.
Yep.
And you come back in a year and say, this is wrong, we need more money. I can't speak for the whole board, but I think
Right.
we'll be very disappointed.
You mean in turn, well, the person would get a raise, chances are. Are you talking about like all of a sudden we say, no, we need $100,000 instead of
That's why
75?
We need 100 or $125,000.
Well, no, we might come back to you and talk about, well, what if we did pool the resources with the town? And maybe it would cost more money to hire somebody. I wouldn't ask for that for myself, but, it
But
depends
that's-
on what we do down the
That,
road.
my concern is it's bottom line, is hiring somebody as an employee,
Yes, I understand.
and we don't get what we need out of that employee, where we could have spent a little bit more money, a one-time cost, get a better plan from a professional consulting firm, to then designate what you need to hire.
Yep.
As opposed to then trying to fit a round peg in a square hole.
Well, what I was explaining, and what Roger kind of made me think about is, in his town, right, he's a townsperson, he's also on the finance board, but, so he can't make money, and he can't be paid money.
Right.
Okay, but he does we have people in this town that we could tap into that could help us with some of that as well. We have, when we did the technology committee, that was a committee of about 25 people. Red was on it, so there were a number of people from town that, had some really good knowledge about technology that were really useful. So, I mean, we would certainly reach out to the people that, in town that feel like they have an expertise to help us with the plan. I mean, I'm not opposed to getting help with a strategic plan, I'm just saying, it would be good to have somebody who was gonna run, gonna basically be in charge of making sure that plan was operational, that was very involved in working with the high-level people. Do you know what I mean? That's my only reservation about having no point person. But,
Thoughts?
I guess my feelings are that even if we agreed and we did that swap so that you could
Yeah,
hire this
yeah.
person for 75,000, I would feel a lot more comfortable if you waited
I know.
until you did a plan and, there was something in place. And then you got some advice from these people that live here in town,
Mm-hmm.
so that now you have a better idea of what you're looking for. I think taking that money right now and going out and trying to get someone, especially what he said, that you're gonna get a level 1 or 2 person, and you might get someone that's good for you. I would be concerned about
I
that.
don't think I don't think he thought we were gonna have trouble finding somebody, I think he just said, it's
Are
on the
you
lower
gonna
end,
have
you're
trouble
not gonna
finding
get
the
an
right-
engineer necessarily.
The right kind of person,
Right,
yeah.
well, as I said, we have some internal expertise as well. I don't know, I don't know. I guess I'm thinking about it from the angle of, what he said was, if the FinCom approves some funding for the study, he said that, they would be able to, start the study July 1, right? And he said it takes about a month, right? And we could.
I got the feeling he could start the study
Oh,
right away.
but yes, because Mike was explaining about the special town meeting versus the.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct, you're right, Mike.
Yeah.
Because he said if the town were to approve it, then they could literally do their assessment within a month,
Right.
right? So before
He'd
July.
have it done by July 1st.
He'd have it done by July 1st, and then maybe we could look at that going forward.
So,
Mike, did that assessment include security? Because that was one thing that Roger and I talked about that I don't think I ever thought of, but that's a huge concern from the town standpoint.
And
of
anything
security.
that connects to a network or telephone line, it's included.
Right.
Okay.
And-
Networking, security, the whole 9 yards.
And he said part of his assessment would be to look at how might the town and the schools have a better
That's certainly good.
ability to work together.
Like,
what would
one
that
of the things
involve?
he said was, well, obviously, the school and town are connected. I
Yeah, we said, no,
No, they're not.
Really?
not obvious.
I said, somebody built a connector, 10 years ago, but
Right.
nobody knows where it goes.
We see the wires, but we don't know where it goes.
The cable company, did it as part of the,
Yeah,
Cable advisory, yeah.
cable, contract.
Okay.
yeah, he had asked me, and I told him I didn't think so.
But it didn't, but it's not connected to anything from what we can tell. But, things like, when we're talking about the telephones and things that we're talking about, whatever would be required for the wiring to have, I could pick up the phone instead of dialing 978 and Mike's whole number and push his extension. We can't do any of that. We can? Well, you better train me then, because I don't know about
You're
that.
777.
Well, okay,
We've
well,
done that for
I'm gonna
years.
try that, because I think your numbers, I look it up.
I don't know what my number is.
I don't know, I don't have anything on my phone that
So
looks
how
like
much would this assessment cost, Carol?
$20,000 to $25,000.
20 to 25?
That's what he said, because remember, we were talking about a much bigger
And
number
it
last
sounds
time.
like you think you can get it out of the special at the beginning of the regular town meeting, is that?
Well, we'd have to use free cash. Yeah.
Okay. But you don't think there'll be any money that you'll be able to use from existing budgets?
No.
Oh, okay.
But nothing from, because is there money in the overlay or not?
Well, the overlay
Yeah.
money, they're giving the overlay money back.
Yeah,
right?
the
free
Yeah,
cash,
yeah,
right?
that's coming back.
But not at the special town meeting.
Well, yeah,
would,
we
yeah.
would do it
We
there.
also have to worry about the Peter.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
another
'cause
discussion.
there is
Yeah.
some other FY14 expenses we have to talk about.
Oh, okay.
We don't know if we're gonna have enough overtime for the highway department, because that was excluded from the budget. That's.
That's right.
They have overtime.
So,
How far away is town meeting?
it's only
Coming
a
up
month.
pretty soon.
Today's what, the 3rd?
Today's the
Town
second.
meeting's the
It's the
5th.
second, yeah.
So, I
Okay,
mean,
so
one
what
of the
if-
things we could ask Sandy, is when you talk to Roger, like, what level of recommendations is he going to make? Like, is he going to, after looking at all this, say, because I got the impression what he said is, I'm gonna identify things and put them in a priority order, like the things that are most critical to least critical. And, maybe that would offer some, it might not be the 200-page strategic plan, but it might offer some strategic direction. And I do want him to look at our strategic plan that we have, and where we were with that and where we are with it now. Because it may just be an upgrading, right, of what we're doing, because it was really always focused on teaching and learning and instruction.
Oh, okay.
I think, I agree with, plan seems to be the first step we have to take. Now, whether you take it now, a special town meeting, or how we do that. They need to look at the existing one.
Right, no.
And that's a given.
I'm
From
wondering.
there, do you wait a year to hire somebody, or do you move along?
Well, that's where we
Yeah,
are.
and I'm
And I
just
guess-
telling you, there's too much to do
Well,
right now.
well, this is, now, here's, speaking about hybrid thoughts, what about if we know that we have to do the assessment, we need to do some sort of strategic plan to put some money aside, and how long will the strategic plan take did Roger indicate how long a strategic plan?
We didn't ask him about it.
Okay, I'm just wondering that, and then if come fall town meeting, and the expenses on the cherry sheet don't come through, and then maybe at that point, if it's identified what you need for an IT person to get it funded in the fall town meeting.
That's an iffy proposition. And the school committee and I feel like it's something that needs to go in the budget, So, again, I
Right.
can't speak for the committee, but, you know, if you say, look, you know, this is your bottom line, and we're not giving you 3.37, we're giving you 3.0, or whatever we're giving, then if it's important to us, then we're gonna have to work within the parameters of that.
All right, well, that's.
Okay,
that's
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like I said, I was offering this other option as a way
Okay.
to come up with,
Okay.
you know, a way to move the shells, so to speak, you know,
That's-
because,
Okay,
you know,
all right.
you know, but I'm not opposed to trying to get the right person, I've just, and he was very clear that he thought getting a halftime person was gonna be much more difficult. If that's what I'm faced with, then we'll figure it out. But we're also not opposed to getting information from, you know, from outside consultants on strategic thinking about technology, absolutely not. And we're not opposed to looking at something that might be town school down the road, if that's what makes sense to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm Pam Ludwest on the school committee, and we have discussed at length the need to have a director of technology this coming year. And there's 4 needs that I can see that the district has, that I don't know that it can be postponed for another year. And, you know, one of the ones I'm thinking of is the technology plan, is the fact that our district, you know, we have not jumped on we have not made our students guinea pigs in any sense. There are other districts that have given all the students iPads, other ones that have said, you know, you should all buy your iMacs, you should do this or that. Other districts have said that they have a bring your own device policy. You know, there are other districts that have already put policies in place. And I think we've been considering and waiting, and we wanna do the right thing, you know, but the time is coming. The time is really here for us to start doing the right thing, and start putting a policy in place so that all of our students have access to something, you know, to a computer. I mean, like, you know, my son right now, he does not have an iPhone. That's not, our contract has not come up, so we're not gonna break the contract, I'm not gonna get him one. He's in a class right now where the teacher says that 90% of the students have iPhones, but my son doesn't. I said, so what do you do with the students that don't have one? She said, oh, I give him mine. And it's like, oh, well, that's great. What if there are other students that don't have one? You only have one, right? You know, I mean, it's just so you need to put a policy in place for that. So that's one concern. Yeah, another concern I have is that right now it is so important for us to be putting the STEM initiatives into place and into, you know, at all levels, at K through 12. And using the latest, new technology is such an integral part of teaching that, of science, technology, engineering, and math. I just don't see how you can do that in any kind of cutting edge, proper way unless you're using really updated technology, unless the teachers have a sense of how to integrate that into their curriculums. Another concern, so that's number 2. So number 3 concern I have is park. That the park is coming up. I believe we did just give a park.
That's the new MCAS.
Test, yes. Another one of my sons was a guinea pig, was tested on the park today. We were not able to do that on the computer. He had to do it on paper, which is not the way it's really going to be. I don't know how we're going to really administer park to everybody. That's something that we need some consultants who know what they're doing.
You don't have to
That's
sell
what
us
the
on,
school-
you don't have to sell us on the fact that you need somebody.
Okay,
It's-
I'm
but
trying
it's-
to talk about like this year, this coming year. I understand you get the
Right.
idea.
And
Some
it
of
ju-
the things I think you're talking about
But, and then there's
are
Pembroke,
are 2 years away.
and then there's
3
Pembroke.
years away.
Right.
Well,
Even if we hired
Park
somebody
is-
this year, you're 2 or 3 years
and I
away on
believe we
something.
need
No,
to make
park
some
is next
purchasing
year.
Yeah, and
and
I-
decisions
I'm
about
familiar
Pembroke
with
right
I'm
now.
familiar with
I
some of
won't
them.
talk, that's it, I just,
I know, but.
talking about just.
And if you, and like I said, if we give you the money and you're gonna insist upon hiring somebody.
Yeah.
And come back to us next year and say, yeah, we're gonna need more money. Probably gonna be no.
That's okay, we haven't done that yet.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying, it's
In
like,
fact,
that's.
we've lived
I'm
within our
trying to
means.
measure twice, cut once,
No,
make
I-
sure that this is. Alright, now what I need to know though is, it's like, what is the bottom line public school number? 13,659, 823? I'm looking through my
So
notes.
that includes the full-time director, I
That's what I'm
think.
saying, that includes.
right. Yeah,
We'll check that, please.
13,634,807.
Yeah, and I've got a different number there, and I got a different number in
Well,
here, so.
Joan, have I got the wrong number?
Yeah, this one says 659.
Wait a minute. Budget overall.
Of course, this isn't Mike's latest.
I have three-
I'm on Mike, right now, I'm looking at Mike's latest.
Okay, so
on my
let us tell you
computer.
what we think it is.
All right, yeah, that's a good idea.
In case it's wrong. Go ahead, Joan.
I have the 13,634.
That's what I have.
Okay, what have we got for personal
That's three
services?
point 37%.
What have we got for personal services?
What is personal services?
Well, right here under tab A, we've
Tab A.
got budget request overall, we've got salaries, non-salaries, and special education.
Yes, I see that.
Okay, so,
So, okay.
what are salaries?
11,442,533.
That's different than your cover memo.
I know, we're reading from what you wrote when we talked to the school committee.
Oh, right, because I don't know what changed, but something changed between the time we published this and when we went to the school committee. So Carol, I did
Well, what would
write
have
in
changed,
the-
what would have changed would have been the technology director
Right, so I
full-time.
wrote in exactly what they voted on.
Okay, which is 11,442,533.
533.
That's
That's what,
salaries.
that's right, that's what changed, yeah.
Okay, now what is non-salary?
Same as what you see there.
And special ed?
Same as what you see there.
Okay, so,
What are we seeing there? 13,559?
You're looking at the
597?
cover memo,
Yeah.
yeah.
13,597,057?
No, that real number, okay, that's with the half-time director included in the budget. That was the original budget that I recommended to the school committee.
Because this is when we found out we got 13,680 in the thing.
Right, then what happened was, when we deliberated at the school committee level, the discussion went to not a full-time, not a half-time, but a full-time. That's when the number, the top number, went to 13,634,807.
okay, so then what goes to our cover sheet,
Yeah.
it brings it over to the cover sheet, which, is 13,697,573, which includes, is this the updated one? Okay, which include, you can email it to me tomorrow, that's fine.
Okay.
Which includes the Essex County Tech sending tuition of 62,000.
So that's your total cost education.
That's the total cost,
Right.
which is the 13,697. I wanna make sure that we're all.
That's how they know, yeah.
Mike, are you following where I am?
No. I've only have paper here and,
No, on the expense budget detail,
yeah.
is where I changed the personnel services, so then to 11,442,533.
I got that.
Okay, then it rolls up into the budget summary under public schools
Mm-hmm.
of 13,697,573. And that number includes the Essex County sending.
All right.
Where does that leave us?
Yeah, so that's slightly
62.
different.
Yeah, and I had
Yeah.
13,659,823.
Because you're adding the other thing, yeah.
Right, that's fine. So this includes, let me just make notes on this. This includes full-time IT director
On those numbers.
At 75.
at 75.
Correct.
Okay. Now that brings us to a deficit of 62,000.
Mhm. So if you take my suggestion, you get 57 of that back.
Well, there's more.
Oh, I'm sure there is, I'm sure there is. Listen, I'm just
That's not
I'm
all.
only using the number you're talking about right now.
We got, this is a very tight year.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know it is,
And we're gonna be pretty much probably wiping out free cash and still not giving everybody what they need.
really.
Yeah, that's how tight it is.
Well,
Now,
glad we don't have to do a $100,000 study. If we can do it for 20 or 25.
Yeah,
you
20
know.
or 25 is doable, you know, the 100,000 probably.
and that's why we wanted to make sure that
Yeah,
we have this conversation with you, because if you go ahead and hire a full-time IT director,
yeah.
there's gonna be a level of expectation,
Oh, I completely understand that.
so.
Is it possible we need more than one IT director?
No,
No? He
no,
didn't say
because
that,
because I have, when I talked about that a little with Roger, you know, we have, like a network specialist person at the elementary level. And, but he does a lot of other things, so he does like our student information management, at the elementary level. We have a lot of systems like, you know, our Connect Ed, those databases. He does our website. He's my transportation coordinator, so we do transportation all on on a program. So that's at the elementary level and he does some PD for the teachers. He helped them set up their teacher websites, all that kind of stuff. Then we have, at the high school, we have a guy similar to that, who keeps the machines running, you know, troubleshoots, fixes things, you know, helps the teachers when, you know, because they all have they're all on a grading system that's all electronic. And, you know, so if they have questions about Edline, he trains them, he helps them, he troubleshoots. And then we have the woman who used to do that particular job at the high school. When she retired, we kept her on for 2 days a week, so she does all the state reports. So, this person, so I don't think we would need another, if we picked up the town part, we might need another technician. But in terms of, for the internal school part, cause I'm not seeing this tech director as somebody who's just gonna walk around and, you know, put pretty paper together. I'm looking, this is a boots on the ground person too.
But Roger did mention that, you know, his suggestion would be an IT person, but in terms of, you know, keeping up the network and everything else, that's something that his company does strictly.
Yes.
So we might even foresee extra costs in terms of having a company, whether it's his or somebody else, you know, operating and keeping the network up.
Well, we do that, Joe, right now, right, so we keep the network up, but when there's something that happens that we just can't handle, we have this gentleman we call, who's I guess an engineer, who does what, Roger probably could do. He either tries to fix it remotely, or he comes out and takes care of it. So we already kinda have that we do right now. But because we have our own internal people, we don't have to utilize that very often unless there's some real issue. So I don't envision that.
Okay.
All right, we've beat this one.
I think we have, yeah.
Thank you very much. I
Any other
appreciate your
questions?
discussion.
All right, any
Thank
other
you,
questions?
thank you, Joe, for making that contact for us. Appreciate
Any
it.
other questions for schools, questions on schools while we have Carol? All right,
Okay,
you are free
thank you
to
all.
sit back.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? We have the fire chief and police chief here. We have any questions on any of their articles? And or budget, I guess, if we're combining both? Nope. Okay. And anybody else? Gary, you have any questions? Come on, you always have a question by now.
When you get to CI here,
Okay,
Oh.
when we get to voting?
well, I have a question on the capital improvement projects that we approved last year. Some
Okay.
of them were bonded or leased, I think,
Yep.
and I wanna know why they did, that's coming from, if it's not coming out of the funds that they worked in this year.
There are things that we've set up lease programs for that we projected to come out of the capital operating expense. That's how it's getting paid for over the next few years,
There's a line item for it.
in the operating budget.
Yeah.
That was
So-
2 years ago.
Time flies. 2 years ago.
Was it really?
Well, that's when you started that budget, but last year, I think, is when you did
I
the
guess,
lease.
Yeah, I think we started the budget 2 years ago,
Yeah,
we,
that's
and
one
we
of
did the
yeah,
bonding last year.
We did a,
Capital improvement projects operating expense, 11595, that's where it's,
it's a 185,000 line item?
it is, 182,500.
Right.
Okay.
And then, and we basically recommended items to be funded out of that line item over the next few years, cause it was short-term borrowing. Correct, Mike? It was short-term?
Yes.
Yeah.
5 years.
It's 5 years, so we actually, if we planned on 5 years to actually get all the items together that we needed, as opposed to chipping at them one at a time. So by leasing it, we're spreading it over 5 years,
I
but
know,
we're getting
that's
that.
why I'm saying, I know we did, they
Yeah.
did, at least I thought some of the leases were last year. I know, I think we did, we
we
started
did
that budget,
do-
I think, 2 years ago, that line item.
Right.
Yeah, and then we,
And I think some of them were last year.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that's why, I just trying to understand the difference, I guess, between that operating budget and the capital improvement fund, and what they have to work with. because it does look like not, for 14, not all that money was spent, I guess.
Not all what money was spent on which one?
It was, for 13, it was budgeted 182.5, okay, 14, it went down to 110,
Yes.
and this year you've got it.
That's
only-
because that's, 110 was what was available, is that?
So this year you've got it only at 3,107.
Yeah, I know.
Well, how are you gonna
I-
pay
I-
them leases?
No, that includes paying the lease.
I'll tell you where,
Okay,
how,
Yeah, it's
because
a-
that money
It's a
got
bookkeeping.
Yeah.
moved from the expense item into debt service. And if you go back to, I think it's page 4 of 5,
Well, debt service is on page, the first page.
it says capital,
What tab are we on here?
You have to do it.
3.
Accounting standpoint.
yeah,
Yeah.
tab 3.
Okay.
Page what?
4, in the expense detail.
Tab 4,
No, page 4 of 5 in tab 3 of the expense detail.
Tab 3, page 4.
tab 3, page, I said page 4.
I did say 4 or 5.
Tab
Unfortunately, not numbered.
I just have an old
3.
budget.
What was
The top of the page says debt service principal,
oh, okay.
and
That
if-
breaks them all down.
yeah, and then if you go under
Capital equipment.
capital equipment principal, $105,000, and then there's capital equipment interest for what, 2259? If I'm reading across, yeah, 2259. So that's where most of that 186.50 is, and I think it's, there's like 3,000, there's 3,000 in that capital line now, 3,500,
3,800.
3,800.
3818 is what I'm seeing on here under the FY14 budget.
Yeah, we actually paid cash, there was an item last year we didn't lease, we just
Right. Hey,
bought it
yeah.
out of that line item, expense line item. It was not,
But it should have showed
didn't
up
make
again
sense
this
to
year.
lease.
Right?
And I can go back and find out what it was. I don't remember right at the top of my head right now.
I just was, wanted to know where they were being funded, what we had done in the past, if it wasn't coming under capital.
I don't have last year's
Yep.
stuff, I think.
We'll pay 105 and some interest for the next, another 3 years.
But it's 105 and 22, is 129 and 38, is 134, where's the rest of the 186, what's that?
We bought something outright,
But that was last year,
yes.
but so that should be, that
That
line
went away,
should,
that went away.
for last year,
Yeah, and
it should come back this year in that line.
Well,
We can't afford it.
We
That's
Is
about, I
that-
mean,
is that what it
that's what
is?
it is, we
Yeah.
can't afford
Oh,
it,
okay, I
that's,
mean,
that's what
that-
it
all
is.
right.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
that's-
would be
oh.
raising,
We'd be more in the red.
yes.
right, so I mean, right now, what he's got, what we have in here for 15 level services proposed is 3,100 in capital, which is probably gonna be something we're gonna pull out for this year's budget. If we, to balance the deficit.
So we, getting,
I know.
we
That line
struggled
item
to
going
get to
down
that
under
186.
That's a line item that
And-
should be getting larger, not smaller.
Yeah,
Well, it'll get, once the
Once the debt service is
105
gone.
well,
payment,
once the debt service is gone, but
It goes back in.
that'll go back, the
30
105 will
something
go back into
is
that
not,
line item.
it's almost 50, it's not gonna come back.
Right. It's gone. And that's something, if we wanna fully fund that,
We'd have to, yeah,
we gotta take from someplace else.
okay. You know, this year, you're right, but going
No,
forward.
no, no,
you know,
right, going
yeah,
forward.
Yeah. Okay,
And this year is especially tough because we've got some things that we're just the roads is the big thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Gary, does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Do you need any, you wanna hear the information?
I do
from
have
Mike?
information for Mike Anderson.
Fabulous.
There's 40 rooftop units total.
40 units total.
Yeah, we've done 5 because they've gone and we've had to replace them. It's approximately $5,000 a unit, so that takes you to $175,000. $20,000 is the rental of the crane, and we have to pay the operator prevailing wage. And then there's a small amount in there for electrical work, so it'd be only like $5,000 for electrical work. So if you were to split it, I asked Mike, if you were to split it into 2 years, then you'd have to pay the crane
Crane twice.
20 grand.
Twice, yeah, yeah.
How
And
long's
more
the
electrical
crane
work,
there?
probably.
I don't know.
I don't know how long. She wants to ask him.
No.
We can easily text him. He answers his text.
Gotta be there for a week.
I don't know, ask
With
him.
that many units, probably is. They have to put them up and they have to take the other ones down, so.
And this
And
work
this-
needs to be, what time of year does this work need to be
In
done?
the summer, I would
Summer.
guess.
Summer.
Yeah.
And is there any critical, is there any danger or safety issues if it isn't done this summer?
No, but if a unit goes, we have to replace it
Right.
out of our operating budget because they don't have air filtering through the classrooms.
And have there been any identified that has a possibility of going?
Through the feasibility study, they're all past their lifespan.
So there's no
Alright.
telling. Okay.
Just see if we squeeze one more year.
I know,
No, I
I know. No,
we have to ask the
you have to
questions.
ask the
Yeah, I
questions,
have to ask
absolutely.
questions. Okey dokey. Any other questions for?
Nope.
Okay, so before we can vote on articles, we need to figure out what certain things we're doing with the budget, cause if we have to use free cash for anything, so we can balance the budget, so then we can sit and decide what we're paying for out of CIP and out of free cash.
What, I guess,
Well, Mike has given us this, right, which
Right.
is the capital, what comes out of capital. And the only thing coming out of free cash on this is the heat pumps.
That was the CIP recommendation.
Right, but then,
CIP
and how much,
recommendation,
and how
right,
much
and-
is snow and ice?
250, right?
Yeah, it's last time it was 235, it's up to 250 now.
Okay, so 250.
what is the total amount we have of free cash that we quit?
735,000.
735.
Yeah. 734, 810 according to this.
Okay, so we, as it sits on the table now, we're talking about taking 200,000 for the heat pumps out of there, right?
Right.
Okay.
I'm keeping a running tally.
You got a running tally over
I
there?
got a running tally.
Good, you can check the math. What's the snow and ice?
250.
250.
What's the other ones?
We were just talking about the technology assessment.
Yep.
So put 25. to be on the safe
25.
side.
Okay.
For the budget, we were, well, just for purposes of discussion, school retirements.
That was 57.
So I thought Peter Durkee was gonna be here. You know, he has given us upwards of $400,000 in road repairs.
Mike has some good news on chapter 90.
Ah,
Yeah, I just got a
Let's use
letter,
that sidebar, yes.
I just got a letter today from the state, and they were announcing the release of the, next year's, chapter 90, and it says, chapter 90 apportionment for fiscal year 2015 is provisionally $669,388, which is $211,884 more than we got last year.
Yeah, so that
Okay.
engineering may not be a concern.
well, okay. See, one of
You
the,
want the bad news now?
oh, yeah, give us the bad news too. What is it?
No bad news.
Bad news, oh yeah. It's all, I got a call on Monday from Whittier Grade
Nah.
School. And although hasn't been voted on, the business administrator told me our assessment is going up $108,000.
And you've included that
That's,
in
but
this.
that's in the,
That's in the.
that's in the
Yeah.
budget
Yeah.
that Sandy has.
Yeah.
It was attributed to 6 new students, but that's only about a 20% increase. The rest of it, the vast majority of it, or 77,000, is due to new funding formulas from the state. So,
Okay, so that's already included. So take the school retirement, so right now to free cash, back onto this, free cash 734, 810, take out snow and ice at 250, heat pumps at 200,
Yeah,
technology assess,
200,000.
yeah, technology assessment at 25, and school retirements at 57, it leaves a balance of 202,000, 810. So then on the
That's
operating
right.
side, we've got a deficit of 62, 610, add in the
And-
57 from the school retirements.
Right.
Add in the 3107 from CIP operating, which isn't really gonna do much, we're not gonna do much with that anyway.
Well, and
And,
the unemployment.
yeah,
How much have we spent on unemployment this year out of that line item?
we have $9,000 left,
What's it being used for?
95,000.
Really?
9,000 or 90,
9,000 out of 95, you
1,000
said.
out of 95, and we still have 4
What's,
months.
what's drawing it down?
It's been fluctuating. We got killed last, our September, August bill was outrageously high.
Why?
I think there were some layoffs at the school.
Layoffs at the school.
I didn't think we had any layoffs last year or anything.
All the, and this goes back because, you know, they exhaust their benefits and then the federal government extends them, you know, more. All the
Yeah.
names on
But
the.
they only get extended for so long and then they're done.
Well, no, they've
You
been
would,
extended.
yeah, you would think that, but some of them, I mean, they get 99 weeks now, and some of them get 109 weeks. I think the 109 went away, but most people get 99 weeks now, and so, and it's, you know, $624 a month, a week. It adds up.
So it's possible that what we're getting charged for are people that were laid off quite a while ago and are still getting benefits.
That's correct.
So would that be gone then for next year?
Yeah, is there any way we can assess that? I mean,
Is not- do we need
is
the
anybody
95?
getting laid off? Are there any plans to lay people off? And, I mean, this is,
I don't know. Not at the town level.
Well, aren't we retiring 2 policemen soon?
One in F-115.
Retiring.
One.
Retiring, but he doesn't get
they're not,
unemployment
it's
benefits.
not,
don't get
we're not gonna get
unemployment.
unemployment, yeah.
All right.
Although some can.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Do we have a one-time cost on the police side for the retirement? That's in the police budget?
It's in there right now, yes.
How much is it?
26,035 or something. You need the exact, 26,000. Get it for you. $26,100. That's included in my increase number.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna throw the 57 there.
Put this
I- that's what I'm
26,
asking,
yeah,
yeah.
that's,
You should
yeah.
throw the 21 in there, and then, what is
The
it? What is the
26
balance
free
for-
cash as
what is
well.
it- What's the number for next year?
With regard to
Payout
26, he said.
$26,100.
for next year, the year after for the next 2.
I wouldn't know until they get there because they could be accumulating, but
Estimate.
it would be roughly the same thing because of their seniority. You've
So
got
there's-
32 years of service.
So you're looking at 55,000 then, for
Next
2
year, he's looking
people,
at 55.
approximately.
I'm hoping one goes the following year,
Hoping.
meaning FY
gonna say.
17.
Yeah, would you explain that?
Don't dig
Are you
yourself
hoping that the
in.
26 is cut in half?
You're hoping it's,
If you're hoping that the 26 is reduced?
No, the 26 is for one person. There was, I projected out for some type of long-term planning for FY 16. I'm hoping that instead of having 2 offices in 16, that I can get one into FY 17. So
Gotcha.
we
Yeah, yeah,
spread-
that's-
so we spread that pain out a
that's
little
what I
bit.
thought you
Yeah.
meant.
Yeah, I thought the 26
Sounds
was
much
two
better.
people.
Well, did I?
No,
what
it's
did-
one
What did I say?
It sounded like you were hoping.
I just.
Oh, no, no,
we-
no, no.
Well,
No,
we
you're
need,
right.
right now, but we need to be careful
It's
that,
been a long day.
on the flip side, we have some increases in the budget. And is this the time to actually do the increases in the budget, which is which we know we need, and just, is it fiscally sustainable, is what it is the part-time accounting, the increased hours on council and aging, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, and full-time highway. Is that it?
Yeah,
And is that in that number?
it is.
Yeah, all of that
So
is
we're
in the
we're
number.
back to the 62 and with all those things in,
Well-
and we still got,
No, well,
No, I
no,
just-
not yet,
No,
not
I-
so fast.
No, we take the deficit of 62, we put back in the 57,
57,
put back in
26.
3107 from CIP, which will be nothing. Put back in 26,100 for the police retirements. And then we will be at positive of 23,597. But we haven't accounted for non-union raises.
Right.
Which is, what is a ballpark we wanna, do we even want,
Do we even want to,
I can't,
I wouldn't, you wouldn't want to say it, I don't think.
Somewhere
I
somewhere
couldn't tell you
between
in a
10 and
public
100?
meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
somewhere between 10 and 100,000, okay.
Okay. Okay. So we just have to figure out what we have to deal with then in terms of
take into
where we are and where we have to go.
what the assessors given back to us, is that, did you get that number in there?
What's that?
The assessors giving back?
No, that's a one-time, that's probably gonna go to roads, right? The 91,000?
Take the roads out of it.
oh,
I would
Oh.
hope,
But that's an FY, the overlay, the money coming back is an FY 14.
yeah, he can use it this spring.
Right. That's in 14, that's not in the
He's got,
15 budget.
he's got that, and
Oh, he's gonna spend that.
theoretically, he has that, and also he has chapter 90 money, some chapter 90 money available for work on roads.
But, and that's what we're hoping he was gonna be here, because to find
Yeah.
out what that, how
was
much he
gonna
has
tell
in
me, yeah, what
how
that
much
was.
chapter 90
He has
is,
available.
because he's gonna be
Right.
using chapter 90 for the Elm Street construction consultant and design process. Which we need to, that price is 2 years old, I spoke with the owner of the company yesterday, at a show I was at. It's 2 years old, if we keep delaying it, it's only gonna go up.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna go up, so that has got to be settled. And Peter planned for it all along, to be paid for out of chapter 90, that's what he told you too, right? That's what he told me yesterday when I talked with him.
I didn't realize, when I talked to Mike, we were both wondering why that it was necessary to start the engineering now, because we thought that, the old school would be demoed after September of 15, and that's not the case. It's gonna be demoed in that summertime. Apparently, the construction people are gonna be out of there not long after the school opens.
Really?
So, yeah, so he's gonna be able to work on Elm Street in 15, yes,
fall of 15?
in the
Yeah,
fall
here's-
of 15, yeah.
Here is the project, the engineering consulting services starts, say, on May 5th, and it ends on May of next year. It takes a year. This is the project schedule. It is a year, and the milestones.
Yeah,
I didn't
no,
make
no,
enough
I-
copies, if anybody
yeah.
wants to see that.
Sandy, I know we talked about it, is that the design or
This is the
from
design.
design to construction?
No, this is
Just design,
Just design, yeah.
This is just design.
Because you
Okay.
can't start construction in May, I wouldn't
There's
think,
a lot
because
of-
it's not
So-
finished.
Can you pass that to Mike so Mike can see that, please? Did I forward that to you?
no.
They're gonna have
I'm
a lot
sorry.
of public input over a year.
Well, that's why
That's
a
why
lot
it
of,
takes so long.
it takes a long time, it's construction and it's a year, and that's why, but if we keep delaying the signing of the contract,
That goes on and on and on.
that is going to cost us more money. The concerns that have been raised about doing other types of work or whatever, anything can be added on, it's going to cost more money. So, right now, with all the work that's been put into this, 2 years ago and over the past 2 years, if this is what Peter as our highway surveyor and Mike as our town administrator feel that should be going forward, it's what should be going forward. Stuff ain't cheap.
That design fee just blows my mind. It does. I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm sorry, just for, repaving and putting a sidewalk in, pitching the road and doing the drain, just design that, $280,000?
Oh.
It's 200, it's under 200, I think.
No, it's
No, it's
over
over $200,000.
Oh, it is, I thought it was under 200.
Oh, it's the amount of work but the amount of work that's involved in it is huge. It's just huge. I'm not surprised. I think, actually, I'll tell you something, it's cheap. That's not that expensive. Wayne, do you agree?
Yeah, no. And it's-
That's not that expensive.
And from my side, there's gonna be public comments, open public comments on it. It's gonna be open to a lot of public comment, and believe me, there's probably many scenarios of what people think each intersection is supposed to look like, what it's gonna look like in front of their home.
There's already been
What's gonna happen
comments,
when you start
lots
working
of
out there.
comments, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's just.
Well,
it's
what do you
going-
do with trees
Peter
and
can-
walls and?
Peter can't answer those type of questions. That's what these engineers are hired to do.
Yes,
My problem I have moving it forward as a selectman
Mhm.
is I would like to know how we're going to fund the bond. If we're having this much trouble right now funding this, how are we going to next year
Because the taxes.
fund a bond?
the taxes will go up. We voted for that, it was a debt
No,
exclusion.
we can't raise the taxes, that's not under debt exclusion.
Mike?
It wasn't debt excluded.
So how are you going to fund the 1.8? What I would like to know as a selectman
Well, how was it
before I
voted?
sign a contract.
Regular bond. The idea was there would be using Chapter 90 money, other grants, and Safe Routes to School money, federal money.
Okay, that's, and you know what, and if that has to be relooked at and revoted again, it's one thing, the design still needs to happen, and the design needs to start. Because that road is not gonna be sustainable after all this construction is going over it. It isn't, Gary. My house is already cracking, Gary. My house is already cracking
Listen,
from the road,
my
and I
truck
can't be.
cracks driving down North Street here.
I understand, and that's another, and that's
Well, there's
another
another
thing.
road that has.
That's another road we know needs to be addressed, but regardless,
Road by the high
so the
school.
1.8, okay, so the 1.8 is another challenge, but that's a challenge that if it needs to be revoted as a debt exclusion, if we can't get the grants, if we can't do something else or whatever, then we have to deal with that, correct?
That's just poor planning, and this selectman can't put the cart before the horse. I wanna know before I vote,
I didn't understand that.
how are you gonna fund it?
I thought that was already part of they had the 1.8.
I thought we had I thought we had the 1.8, and there was any other cost overruns were gonna be done through grants. We were gonna look at grants and TIF.
Mike knows, I'm not.
That was my understanding.
The original plan was to include it in the Pembroke bond, but MSBA
no.
would not allow that.
Right, but when we voted the 1.8, I thought we voted it as a debt exclusion, and then other monies, if it went over the 1.8, we were gonna be looking also in the meantime to maybe even reduce the 1.8 by TIFs, by grants, by other things.
I'll double check, but I don't think it was debt excluded.
I thought it was debt excluded.
I did too.
I don't remember, I don't think it was.
Because we would have had to have two
Yeah, that's
articles
right, that's
on
right.
the ballot.
There was only one.
There was only one.
We thought we were going to be able to include it almost up to the town meeting, but we found out that it couldn't be.
Well, at any rate, if we don't move forward, if the contract doesn't move forward, it's just gonna cost more money. That's the bottom line, Gary, is if,
Make this project smaller if you can't
you
afford the
can't make this
1.8.
project smaller. You cannot make this project smaller. It has got to be, things have got to be done and done correctly. If the school was being built down somebody, on another road someplace else that needed these improvements, you have to do the improvements the way they need to be done. You can't do it smally. We need the curbs, we need certain things, we need the drainage done. You know, we're lucky the roads only last 20 years. That road is well over 20 years old, so we've been damn lucky that we've gotten that to last as long as it has.
I think the two major, the sidewalks and the intersections have to be addressed.
Yes.
Yes, you're gonna have,
I agree with that.
you're gonna
The
have
road right now is an investment.
60% of the
I think
school
that-
You wanna do one and not
population.
the other, but.
You have to
as I
do the
say,
road.
you need to work the financing out before you.
I understand that, but
At least that's the way I see it.
But we have to do the work, and right now, the consulting cost, we will be running the risk of that going up 25%. Are you willing to take that risk and come back to town meeting and tell them you're gonna need another $50,000? Because you guys didn't wanna act on it because of the 1.8?
If I don't know where you're getting the money to pay for a $1.8
He's
million
taking it
bond,
out
I am
of, well,
not gonna.
he's taking it out
But,
of
you know, remember, I'm
chapter
only,
90 anyway,
I know.
so it's
I'm the
done.
conservative.
It's a done deal.
So you'll probably get the vote anyway, to be quite honest.
Well, if we have to look at how this was voted in and re-look at,
I think that probably should, something we should
We
probably
should, yeah,
do.
take a look at
I've
it.
been asking.
I don't
for-
think we should wait till next spring.
no, but I'm saying is that this has got, the design and engineering has got to get going on it.
Hmm.
If I
It has to
could-
get going.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I've been asking to have a joint meeting between the selectmen, the finance committee. I thought tonight was going to get posted as a selectmen's meeting, the way we left last Thursday's selectmen, but it didn't. And the school committee, because we've got some big things coming in front of us, the 1.8 million, that's one of them. And if you don't get the debt exclusion, I don't wanna lose the money from the state, because we know that the work needs to be done in the high school. I mean, I'm 100% behind that, but I'm not 100% behind funding it with a debt exclusion.
So,
I think that some hard work may need to be done, because if you don't get the debt exclusion, I don't know what you're gonna be doing. I think that you need to be doing some work towards putting something in the bank in case that goes through, instead of saying more employee here, another employee here, another employee here, because if that debt exclusion don't go through, we possibly don't know where we're gonna get the money in the future to do the high school roof. And Elm Street.
okay, so first off, we need the answer, Mike, of the 1.8.
Mhm.
Where was that 1.8 supposed to be coming from? How was it voted? How was it gonna get paid for?
Yeah, I'll find out, but I'm very, I'd be surprised if it isn't, I'll be surprised if it is debt excluded.
Okay, so otherwise, that, what we voted to pay for 1.8 and get the funding from elsewhere,
That wasn't a very smart move.
huh?
That wasn't a smart move.
I don't recall that being that way.
Like, how do we get that one?
I
didn't
don't
get?
recall that.
Usually you
I
have
got
to
up and spoke
designate
on
where
it.
the money's coming from. Maybe they
Oh,
did.
yeah, but it's probably a very general, you know,
That was
from
a general
borrowing, from
designation,
whatever.
okay.
It's a general borrowing, yeah.
Okay.
General borrowing. And how does general borrowing get funded?
From the tax levy.
From the tax levy. Is there, how much is, where's the long-term debt?
Yeah, that's,
Where's the
is
long-term
anything,
debt?
is anything coming off
Yeah.
long-term debt?
Uh,
Oh, the high school, how much is that
Most
down
of what
to?
you've got on there is
Not-
debt excluded.
Yeah, most of it, the biggest thing coming off is in 18, and that's debt excluded.
Oh, it's, that's right, that's debt
Probably the
excluded,
biggest
yeah.
thing we've got is a fire truck.
Yeah. That's, we still have 2 more payments on that,
After this year.
yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna need some more information on that, Mike, please.
Yeah, I recall the conversation was, we'll get other money through grants, Chapter 90, and safe routes to school.
I recall it being 1.8, and we were going to hope to reduce it by getting grants and other monies, so we wouldn't have to actually get the whole 1.8.
Right.
I know.
Yes.
But we were still funding the 1.8.
That was our plan B, was to bond it if we couldn't get other money.
Bonded out of general.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, because it
That's where it
wasn't
stands right
debt
now, I guess.
excluded. That I have to double check
Okay.
that, but I don't think it was.
Okay.
Next.
Okay, so, back to the budget.
So how much more do we wanna set aside?
Well, I don't, we've got 176 left in free cash.
No, in the general budget. We're positive by
We're
what?
positive by 23, but that does not include raises.
Right. So we need another 60-ish, I would think,
Somewhere around there.
60, 70,000.
But I'd be all for postponing that fence around town hall too.
That's a, yeah, I don't,
What's
that's a
that, 50
CIP,
grand?
it's a CIP.
That's a CI,
It's not gonna help us with.
that's coming out of the capital fund. So that doesn't help the budget.
That doesn't help us at all.
No.
But I'm all for postponing that too.
He's gonna vote against that too.
Mike, the expenses on the cherry sheet, have you gotten any word on that?
No, not a word.
Not a word on that yet. Okay, so we have not, so just so you know, so what is the difference on the revenue? That we were looking at the potential revenue increase?
It was, as it stands now, on those two categories, it was around 89,000.
Okay. Any word on when we'll be getting that number?
No.
Okay.
What number is that?
They've said what they're gonna increase chapter 70
Oh,
on the
yes.
cherry sheet, but they
Yes.
haven't come back with their
With the costs.
their hand behind their back saying what the cost is gonna be.
And they haven't said what other smaller amounts of revenues are, but they were severely cut in the governor's budget. I mean, we get, well, one of the other larger ones is state-owned land, and we have the state park, the state forest here, and we get over $100,000 a year from that. And the governor had cut that by like 20 grand.
Wow.
And he even cut some veterans' revenue too. You can tell he's not running for reelection.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, and that's Wayne, way back when.
Way back when. Don't even go there. Don't even go there. I came from there this week. It's not a happy camp.
Oh, okay.
Not a happy camp. Don't want to go down there.
Okay, fine. I'm just channeling Peter Dion right now.
I know.
Yeah, no, electricity, remember years ago.
Look, that's probably one of the other problems we should probably talk about. The cost of gas and electricity.
That's what I say, is the cost of.
There's probably not enough in the budget next
That's,
year.
okay.
That's why I was just gonna say, maybe we could, is there any way we could take this 202 that's left over and like split it up, so, so much for the wages and so much for the other issues that could come up next year? How do you usually do that?
You don't usually
You don't, so-
use
No.
that one
We go
time
back in
money
the fall?
for budget stuff. Cause then you'd have nothing to pay for it the next year,
I understand that.
so,
So you just kinda leave that out there, cause
yeah.
I'm sure Mike probably feels the same way. The gas, the heat and the electricity, it's gonna be more than they have in the budget. And,
Okay. What are,
So we need at least seven.
what is,
Cost rise. Did we ever talk?
What insurance does that?
you've already put in here some insurance savings, correct?
It's in
That we know of right now?
It's not life insurance.
Yeah,
That's right.
The plan, the plan.
savings,
It's in there.
there was a
It's-
slight,
Sandy, this is Mike's
gain
latest budget,
when
it's
you-
still moving. But the
filtered
budget
out all
seemed
the,
to have a
you
computer
know,
has that
workers'
in.
comp increase, the,
I think it was 205.
yeah, the workers' comp increase was the biggest.
30 or 205.
That's the whole thing.
Property and casualty actually went down by about 10,000, but the workers' comp went up to
Wasn't that- I don't
38,000.
think it was that much. I don't think it was
All right.
that much. We can look.
I have a,
But whatever you know of right now is included in this number.
yes.
Okay. Let's see.
Whole match.
I'm taking out, I know, well, I'm taking out some people right now.
You know, maybe,
I'm trying to get, I'm trying to, I'm
we
thinking,
just have to tell people
we may
how
have to
much
delay-
money they have and let them figure it out.
Yeah, and that's,
That's, I'm just accepting Carol's suggestion.
the, hold on, the admin,
It's all right,
accounting.
anytime.
For, what's the town accountant person? Finance clerk was 32 hours, correct, Mike?
No.
No.
No, that's
I'm
our
wrong.
existing one we have
Sorry.
in treasury.
It was 18, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't turn far, 15,808. Does that sound right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That is, if we take out, and I'm not saying, I'm saying take out for now, just to see where we are, because we've got a couple of moving targets that we may not know until after town meeting.
Right.
So, one of them being the cherry sheet, expense side.
Right.
Okay, so right now, the highway position, council on aging position, and the account finance clerk is $61,563. Okay. What I looked up, Carol, what I could find, and I don't know if that's the latest number, and the field maintenance,
You know what,
I found $10,000. I thought it was more, I thought it was 20, 30.
No. yeah, no, I knew it wasn't much, that's why I said to you, it's not a lot.
I thought it was more, and that's what, but anyway, and just that maybe, and one of the thoughts that I had on that in regards to the savings by putting a turf field in is taking the maintenance out of the school budget. But on that thought process, if we were thinking about that, I might move that, I would recommend moving it to reserve fund, not eliminating it from the budget completely, simply because if the turf field doesn't go through, you're still gonna need maintenance on the field. And then it's, we can move it back from reserve fund. So there's numbers, I'm just moving numbers around right now.
So Joan, what was the question you asked me?
You're right, is that the whole, is that the total, cause we still have to do the maintenance on the fields early and the maintenance.
No,
on
no,
the-
this is
Are
the
you just
saving,
talking
this is
about
the
the-
savings from the
Oh, the
turf,
saving,
the
okay.
savings
So
from the
she's
turf
talking
field.
If you reduce that, instead of level
If you're-
funding,
if
you
you're
reduce it by
cutting back
$10,000.
so much, we have to take
We'd still have the money to do the
The
other
rest
things.
of it, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's,
That was based on the other side.
yes.
So,
So $10,000 less is what
so
you're saying.
field, right, it might be,
Yeah, but that's, okay. But we're gonna keep it in the reserve fund, so that doesn't do anything for us really in terms
no,
of.
that's true, it doesn't do, it's
Yeah,
just moving,
you
that's
know, just moving it somewhere else.
And we
Adjusting
may
the
need,
Deck chairs on it.
Titanic. Moving the
Keep
deck
going,
chairs
keep
on
going.
the Titanic.
and then we may need to reduce the IT director to half-time.
Yeah.
And like I said, and these may only be temporary reductions until fall town meeting, so we can balance the budget and know full well what we're going forward with. So basically, it's,
That gives us a little
It's-
bit of
it's-
a
it's-
buffer.
Like how
In
much
case
of a
something
buffer
bad
we're talking
happens.
about?
it adds back in, so it adds back in 99313. So we have a balance of 122,000.
Okay.
But, and what that does is that it does give us the ability, if the expense side doesn't come through and we actually get that chapter 70 revenue, we've got some things, we can make some adjustments in the fall. But it's not doing anything to touch your teachers that you have to know about and all the things that the school side needs to know about before fall town meeting. It's kind of moving things.
Yeah.
But it does.
It's the best we can do.
Make the fall town meeting necessary.
Yeah,
Fall,
yes.
fall
no
town meeting is
question.
always necessary.
They haven't had
Well, we
one.
didn't have one last year.
We didn't have one last year?
No.
No, we skipped it.
Skipped it. I think we're gonna have to this year.
No, this was the first year.
Yeah, we usually have them, you're right.
It's gonna make it necessitated this time.
I'm sorry?
Have to have it.
Yeah, we'd have to have it. Yep.
Right, so that what these numbers do, and we do not need to vote on these tonight, because Mike, you're getting more information probably next week? Okay, so this kind of gives us a handle of where we are right now. That way we can go through and take some votes on the warrants.
Okay.
That way Janet can start typing up.
So
on
but
the
that's,
warrant.
that's where we're headed. We can.
That's where we're headed with the free cash, starting at 734, 810, taking 250 out for snow and ice, taking 200 out for the heat pump, taking 25 out for technology assessment, taking the school retirements out of free cash as opposed to the budget of 57,000, police retirements of 26,100, and leaves us a balance of 176,710.
Got it.
Okay?
Free cash.
In free cash.
Okay.
Okay?
Now, does Mike have the same sheet you got there?
He's going to when I send it back. I figured it was easier going on the computer, then I can email it back off to him. What that does now with the deficit that this sheet started with was $62,610 deficit. We're putting back in the budget 57 school retirements, putting back in the budget CIP operating 3107, and putting back in the budget police retirements
Of 26.
of 26,100, and then of the FTE, well, the employees, new employees, new positions, new hours, however you wanna call it, back in for 99,313. That brings us to a balance of 122.
That's not counting the, non-union wages increase.
Correct,
right.
correct.
That's
Right.
Not counting the
And-
union wages either.
Yeah.
Any
Not counting
wage.
anything.
Anyway,
Any
Not counting any
town
wages.
employee wages,
right, that could be obliterated.
increases.
Well, I hope it's not
Well, I'm
obliterated.
just saying it could be.
Oh, I know, it's just, and that's, but then, once we have a better idea on that number, when are we gonna know health insurance plan design number?
Well, I
Is health
put
insurance
that in there.
numbers
Oh, you already put that in,
Yeah.
okay, alright, that is in there already. Does everybody follow along with what?
Can I just ask a question so I can make sure I understand? So we started with the number that Carol gave you tonight that included the full-time technology director for the school.
Correct.
We subtracted out, and put over to free cash the 57,000, and then you took out the 10,000 and put it in reserve. So it's the 13,600 minus the 57 minus the 10 right now, or did you cut the technology too?
We cut
the technology as
in
well,
half,
yeah.
Okay,
in half for
Took out the
now.
37.5.
okay, thank you.
Now, now let's everyone keep in mind that if we get all different numbers and get something definitive from the state up until just before town meeting, we could very well change our mind putting this in here.
I just wanted to know what
But
our
if we're
bottom
gonna,
line
but
was.
if we're going to change, if we're going to end up, if we go to town meeting with a budget in the book, okay, that's what's gonna happen in the book. If something happens and we find that we're confident enough to change it, we're only gonna change it once, and it's gonna be as close as Janet Patano will allow us, because she has to do all the copying, printing, so.
Oh, yes, I see what you
So
mean.
it's, and that would be, and we have done that before. We've gone to town meeting with a different budget because of the state. We don't like to. But, any other questions? Mike, do you wanna add anything? Or any other, do you have anything that you see that we are, I'm not seeing, I know you're not seeing the screen, but do you have anything else that you see? Cause one suggestion Jim had was increasing local receipts, maybe
Yeah.
10,000
Not just a
just to
little,
kinda-
yeah, but I don't think we need to do that
Yeah,
now.
Mary and I will sit down before, next week and review those.
Oh, okay.
Then we may be able to boost them up, a little bit. Unfortunately, the, Medicare, although it's going to be increasing considerably, we can't, they won't let us raise it until we actually show that we've collected it once. So this year doesn't count. We won't be able to raise it till next year, the revenue from it. We used to get 50,000 and we had to bump it down to 10,000 because one year we got practically nothing, and now it's back up over 50,000. But
It'll be for next year.
yeah, so and Wayne's right. I on the utility costs, particularly gas. Well, even and electric. Dave said, you know, it's going to go up 0.75 cents, but now it's up over a cent. And I'm just getting new gas bids. Our contract, both the town and school contracts expire in May. We had a 2-year contract. It was at the first, if we renewed with our present provider, it would go up 38%. So I'm looking around.
As the price of natural gas goes, so goes the price of electricity. Remember that.
Here's what we have to do. We have to take some of that free cash and put it in the reserve fund to cover that, just to make sure.
Are we?
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, no, are we expecting any increases for and that we're gonna realize any increases before 14, the end of 14?
Well, we've already
I know we've already experienced more.
run
Is
into
it
a
more?
deficit.
The numbers Dave talked to Mike about were for the next year.
Next year,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I think you're all right for this year.
For electricity, we are. Gas is a problem.
And we haven't covered all the gas problem yet?
Probably not.
Warmed up.
Hmm?
Warming up.
We got that going.
All I
for us.
know is,
Spring's
yeah,
coming.
we're pretty confident we're good through May, well, through to May. And I'm hoping May, June, we'll be able to do some line item transfers to cover any shortfall in the utilities.
No. This is where we are right now. We will have some more.
It's a place.
It's a.
All right, I'm fairly comfortable.
Yeah.
You know.
I think there's a buffer,
I
we
think
have
it's
enough to
just,
take care of.
we're not happy about
energy.
having to do any of these things, but
No,
we
no,
have to
no,
do it.
because I hate not, for instance, Peter, not to say him out, but he is such a frugal guy.
No, I know, and I
Not to
don't,
be able to give him, what he's looking for.
right, and
you know?
the same thing with the accounting clerk.
Yeah,
Not to-
yeah,
Not
yeah.
to give the accounting
Yeah.
clerk is an issue. Like I said, Mike, if you have anything else to throw out there that you think, as opposed to those numbers, as opposed to the new position, extra hours, do you see any other expense to not have to do that? Because those are the new hours and expense on the town side, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's tight, and, I'll see what I can do by next week. Give us some wiggle room.
That's just it, I would hate to be so tight and then hire some people and then all of a sudden have to lay some.
Oh, no, I don't think at this point we can
We can
afford to
do-
do that.
Yeah.
I don't think we
I
can.
totally agree.
Okay, all right.
That's just not prudent at this point.
Right.
You know, if things get, we can always wait till, October. It's not, I mean,
Yeah, and to definitely have a fall town meeting,
Yeah.
I think that's,
July, August, September, 4 months,
you've been living with it
yeah.
for a while, so.
So far with these numbers, everybody else on the
Yeah.
board, where we are, I'll email them out to everybody.
And put some more free cash in the
How much you
reserve
want?
fund.
How much you want?
How much do we think?
We have
Either
107
75 or 100?
How much is it now?
It's 96.
Reserve?
Which reserve?
Ah, was.
which was our,
So to-
our pocket of
To
money.
cover,
Oh, yeah.
energy increases if it happens.
96.
We're at 96.
We're at 96.
9,600.
We spent already 60,000 out of it, didn't we?
No, the reserve fund
Well, 15.
is at 96,000.
Is
It's
at
budgeted
96.
at
Oh,
96,000.
We
yeah.
wanna bump it up with
Oh.
some free cash in case
I
energy
thought you meant
costs
how much
really
was
go up.
left.
I mean,
in the
but
fund.
you're gonna get that number next week, right?
Oh,
From-
so
or
we
do you
can
already-
wait
or
for
do you
that?
already have that? The potential increases in,
Dave talked to Mike about raising.
He
it.
just gave me, I didn't get specific numbers, I just
Oh,
okay,
okay.
can you get those for next
warned
week?
it's going up. I will try, yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I mean, it's, okay, so energy.
Yeah, see, there's a case, if he knows what's gonna go up, should we be doing it with free cash? But,
No, if we know what it's gonna go up,
and then we have to cut into that 120 or something.
right. Oh, yeah, then it has to go down here as opposed to the free cash.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that was fun. Alrighty, why don't we, so Janet can do some typing.
We'll take a bunch of votes.
Let's take a bunch of votes.
What do we wanna do? Have we voted on the consent calendar?
We voted on nothing, and
Where do you start?
where do we start? Let's start right at the beginning.
I've got 4 copies left of this. If anybody cares to
Okey-dokey.
have them.
We don't need, oops, where's my tracking sheet?
Well, let me see, we can't do the first two. We can't do, well, can we do the? No, how about the fire department ambulance? You know, that's one of those that is what it is.
We still need a number though, I think.
It is, there's a number in the budget. On the bottom of the budget, at the very end.
Sorry, Michelle, I just keep spreading out. On the budget detail or on the budget?
It's in the expense detail.
Onto the expense detail,
Way down the end of expense detail, yeah.
so 238,570. That's the ambulance service revolving,
Not revolving.
not
the
revolving, excuse me, enterprise fund.
Enterprise.
Okay, so, is that number firm, Mike?
That hasn't changed.
Well, Al
just
would
check
know.
with the chief here.
Chief Beardsley, has that number changed, are we still good with that 238,570?
Chief.
Oh, we put him to sleep.
The ambulance enterprise fund, is the number 238,570 still your good number for your enterprise?
No.
Oh,
Glad I asked.
good question.
For the, for fiscal 15, we included the 92,000, maybe that's,
Yeah, that was taken out.
oh, that was taken, out. Okay, so,
That
that has
stays
to
in
be
your,
separate.
in your fund.
okay,
That stays in the fund.
okay,
It
so
doesn't go into the
it's the
operating.
330,
Right.
570 less the 92,000,
Yeah.
okay, then yeah.
Glad I'm using pencil tonight. 238,570 is still good?
Yes.
Okay. Okey dokey, so we are unable at this point in time to vote up in Articles 1 through 7.
You could do 7.
Oh, I'm gonna,
That's the operating budget for the, that's the one we just talked about, is 7,
Do you-
no?
you have the wrong warrant.
I do?
Yes, everybody
Oh,
please make
I'm
sure they have the
sorry.
warrant that says
Oh.
bottom, left-hand side of 4-2.
7 is the 250,000 for the water department out of their enterprise fund.
Right,
So I need a minute for
I
that?
think so.
Okay.
and,
What do they have, $1 million?
Oh, that's Article 8. Yeah, okay.
we're gonna have, this is ATM 40, remember, we're taking votes on the tracking number.
Yep.
Which is water. And what is this 250 that they have to take out, Mike?
I just got it yesterday. I didn't get any explanation. It's just to
Okay.
do capital repairs.
Okay, we'll discuss it next week. Can we get, do you think they'll be able to get more discussion, more information from them?
Yeah, I'll have
Okay,
them come to the meeting.
okay, all right. Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to recommend this is, just for those of you who haven't gone through this, we always make the motion in the positive. And then if we vote against something, then it'll be the nay vote. So we don't recommend disapproval, we don't make a motion to recommend disapproval, whatever. It's always make a recommendation to approve, and then we take the votes from there. I really wish Robin was here. I will entertain a motion to recommend approval of ATM 1407 Fire Department Ambulance Operating Budget in the amount of $238,570.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I think we got hit on 8, right? All right. I'll entertain, consent calendar.
We can do the whole thing.
I'll let-
There's just one teeny change, if I may. The Camp Dennison fund, we wanted to go to 25,000 from 16.
And is that reflected, Mike?
Janet and I were talking about that today. Thought we made that change.
Oh, okay. No, it's still at
It's still
16.
No, actually, we caught it after she printed this out.
Okay, so this 16 is changing to 25.
So what article you want?
Article 12.
And don't forget that that's not budget money, that comes from rents.
It's a revolving fund.
It's the rentals of Camp Dennison go into this revolving fund, and then, but we're dangerously close to the edge this year.
I'll entertain a motion to recommend approval of ATM 14-08, -09, -10, -11, -12, -13, -14, -15, and -16.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll entertain a motion to recommend
Did you
approval.
have to make some notation about changing 16 to 25?
No, I don't think so in this, do we?
No, we've got it.
It's
Yeah, they
fixed in
We
the.
caught it after the,
Okay.
And we've all made, yeah, that's
Okay,
fine.
we all know what it was.
I'll entertain a motion to recommend approval of ATM 14-17 Fire Department ladder truck payment in the amount of $77,000.
So moved.
Wait a minute, wait,
Wait,
where are
okay.
we taking that from? Back up. Where are we taking $77,000 from?
Free cash, I heard.
No.
No,
No.
no.
That's not
No,
on my
it's in,
page.
wait a minute. Wait a minute. I did see it somewhere.
And I asked last time, that's where I have it.
Oh, yeah.
we've been
Well,
taking
you
it
caught
out of
us.
free cash.
Are we taking out of free cash?
We've been.
That's what I
Oh,
thought.
I know, and that's.
No, Reggie's right.
Oh, wait, or were we talking about taking this out of staff fund this year, 'cause we had some, we were over the 5%.
Well, we're not over the 5% because we didn't, we have to put like $4,500 in to get to the 5%.
Okay.
4.9.
Okay.
But we could still take it out of the staff.
Let's send the fire truck back.
Send the ladder truck back.
We didn't use it last year, so we don't use it.
Should we wait until next week? Until you get more, why don't we wait on the ladder truck till next week,
Okay.
until we get more money, and wait on the OPEB too?
Yeah, wait on the OPEB.
Okay, so this is gonna, so we're gonna wait on the ladder
We're
truck,
gonna end up with zero.
So much for our cushion, huh?
huh?
So
Yeah,
much
what
for our
cushion?
cushion.
What cushion?
Yeah, we're not gonna have one.
We have a hard chair this year. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to recommend approval of ATM 14-19 heat pump replacement in middle high schools in the amount of $200,000 from free cash.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion cap. Nay? I'll entertain a motion to recommend approval of ATM 14-20, replace the town hall fence in the amount of $50,000 to come out of capital fund, capital stabilization fund.
So moved.
Need a second. Need a second.
He's not gonna do it.
You got a second, then we can
You know what,
discuss it.
listen, no, I think if there's
I'll
gonna be a lot
second.
of discussion about this, let's leave it.
Okay.
Let's try to
No, I don't
buzz
think there's
through
gonna be a
all
lot
the-
of
we can all
discussion.
vote
I
for
mean,
it.
Let's end it.
I mean, we can't
Let's end it.
do anything with
Okay,
it,
all
you
right.
know, I mean.
Do you wanna rescind your motion?
Oh, I will, sure.
Okay. Rescind the second, okay, this will be for next week.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to recommend approval of ATM 14-21, replace car number 1 fire department in the amount of $35,000 coming out of the capital fund.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommend approval of ATM 20, I'll entertain a motion to recommend approval of ATM 22, the exhaust system expansion fire department, in the amount of $20,000 to come from the capital stabilization fund.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to recommend approval for 1-ton dump truck highway department. Excuse me, I entertain a motion to recommend ATM 14-23 1-ton dump truck highway department in the amount of $64,000 to come from the capital fund.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion for ATM 14-24, the middle high school parking lot stairs, in the amount of $40,000 to come from the capital fund.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion. Oh, no. Entertain a motion to recommend approval of ATM 14-25 for the police radar units in the amount of $10,200 coming from the capital fund.
Oh, so moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to know how many of those we'll be getting? Five.
2,200 apiece. I'm gonna get about 800 in trade-in on the 3 of the 5. 2 are no good, but of the 3, I get $800 trade-in. Parts.
Any other questions? And
You're welcome.
That's CIP funds, right?
this is coming from the capital fund.
Yep.
Capital stabilization fund. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Are we gonna drain that capital fund?
No,
Yeah.
It depends on the fence.
But
it
it's,
depends on the fence. So we're on the fence about this, right?
Next
Okay.
week, we're gonna find out about the fence.
I think we're gonna know where the fence is going, yes. Captain, Chief.
Quick question.
Sure.
The ambulance replacement, we just talked about a moment ago, but I don't see anywhere around here. Does that not have to be voted on at town meeting?
Is there not an article on here?
Jeepers, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
It came from the enterprise fund. It still has to be on there, though?
It's coming out of the enterprise fund.
So isn't the water.
but so isn't, yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to check with legal on that. This is the first time we've had
Oh, that's right.
the ambulance fund, so,
I think it needs to get voted on.
I
think
think
it-
it
yeah.
would too.
And,
Yeah.
and you need it, and if so, we're gonna have to open up the warrant, or can this wait until the fall? It can't wait, right?
I'm sorry, can you,
Can it wait until the fall?
no,
Okay.
that is absolutely dying on its wheels right now. It's gotta be replaced.
Okay.
Okay.
And that was why we had the higher amount of money in the beginning, because 92,000 was put into the budget for the purchase of that ambulance.
We can,
It went through CIP.
and then we can probably vote
I'm sorry.
I think we can Mike, I think we check with council, I think we can vote in their full budget amount with the 92,000.
Coming from.
Oh.
No, it doesn't, and then it won't need to get voted as a CIP item.
No, it shouldn't, we shouldn't have to do it as a CIP item.
So that means
No,
that,
no.
I think we're gonna have to do, like we just did with the water for the 250, to take it out of their fund
Yeah,
balance.
that's what you have to
That's
do.
where the money's coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the enterprise
Their
fund.
fund
Yeah.
balance.
but does it have to, but that's the question, can it just be part of the budget? Does it,
If it acts like the water department, we have,
I
the
was gonna say,
town has
no.
to vote every time for them to take money out of there.
The easiest way is
Reserve
a
fund.
separate warrant article
Right.
for him to.
Yeah,
take
yeah.
92,000 out of his enterprise funds.
Right.
and
Yeah.
pay-
Yeah,
That's the
from the
easiest,
enterprise.
Yes,
clearest
okay,
way of
all right,
doing
so we're
it.
gonna
Yeah,
need another article.
and they have to open up the warrant anyway, because the water
Budget.
wasn't, the water 250,000 wasn't,
Wasn't in there.
no.
Ah.
We just added it for
Okay.
tonight's purposes.
Okay.
It hasn't officially been put on by the selectmen. They didn't even know about it. We didn't know about it until
Okay.
yesterday.
Okay, so the fire truck needs to get added. Not fire truck, add ambulance.
Did we vote for the radar units?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Add ambulance article, making a note, okay. Yes, local options meals tax, do we want to take a vote on that, or do we wanna hold that till next week?
Let's hold that.
Do we have to vote on that?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we
financial
should,
impact.
we should, yeah.
What is the impact on the budget? Do we have a dollar amount on that?
Pretty amount of money.
You gave us 10 grand, that's something.
No, it's
No.
more, it's like 75, I
Oh,
heard.
you
Yeah.
mean what the revenue would be?
Yeah.
Oh, at least 50,000.
Okay.
50?
It would
Little
have been
numbers.
50 this year. It was 56 the previous year.
Okay.
It was 44 the first year.
What's the percentage? It's
.75%.
.75?
Budget.
Right, so it'll go up to 7% meals tax,
Yeah.
up from 6.25 right now.
Would add 7.5 cents to a $10 lunch.
Right, 75 cents to 100. $100 bill.
Who do they?
But, you know, this
We
would,
collect
this
it.
would
How do they-
poison the
who
well for
looks
the
over
school.
this?
State
override.
collects
State
it.
does it and then they send them.
Poison the well for the school
Okay.
override.
Just,
Their cut. yeah.
School,
okay,
High school,
okay,
no, the high
I
school.
understand.
That
Okay.
explosion is coming up. It would kill it.
All right, let's hold this until next week.
Yeah. I don't even, have the selectmen voted to leave this in?
They haven't
anything.
voted on anything yet.
Oh, okay.
They're doing that on the 14th.
Okey-dokey.
But then last minute.
They were waiting for your advice.
They were, really?
I think we kind of correct them last time.
Okay, we'll do it next week.
Okay, easement 104 Elm Street. This has
This
no
is-
financial, but
No.
this is,
No,
Transferring land,
right,
interest in land, of town-owned land. That's why it has to be on the town meeting warrant. We basically, where the auxiliary access road, emergency road for the Pembroke School, it's coming down on, it's a very small, narrow strip of land that we own. It comes from the woods out to Elm Street. It happens to go through or along the property of 104 Elm Street. 104 Elm Street has been using that piece of land forever as their driveway. And so they can continue using it as a driveway, and we can exert our ownership of the land. We're giving them an easement to cross over our property. They're gonna, in the MOU, we just signed it day before yesterday. They're giving up any rights they may have to that land. and we're giving them an easement back. So we avoid
Building them a little
litigation.
parking
Yeah,
area.
so we avoid litigation, and we avoid having to take it by eminent domain. So,
I think they had adverse possession arguments.
there was a claim of adverse possession. You can't have adverse possession against a municipality.
Okay.
However, they've owned it long before we owned it. So it was felt that the best interest in all parties, and we didn't spend a ton of money on attorneys. And in the long run, we would just take it on eminent domain.
Right.
So it's nicer this way.
How's that?
Do we wanna
Sure,
take a
I'm
vote
good
on
with it,
this?
sure. Why not?
entertain a motion to recommend approval of ATM 14-27 easement on 104 Elm Street?
So moved.
Second.
The only
Moved and
question I
seconded?
have is, you said it was 104, but it says 68.
68
68 is the address of the Pembroke School, and 104 is where it comes out.
Okay.
The lot is considered 68 Elm Street, but we're,
And it's going over here to 104.
yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Personnel bylaw.
Let's do it next week.
Next week.
Buzz, let's buzz
Just-
through.
Okay. Community preservation. Are we prepared to vote on community preservation, or do we wanna do that next
What do you
week?
think?
You told we can vote on some,
Yeah, we'll vote on some and leave the one,
leave the contentious one
yeah,
till the
yeah.
end.
Why don't we do that?
That's fine.
Alright.
Hmm?
I said, yeah, okay.
Do we wanna vote, alright, let's see, I'll entertain a motion to,
Well, how about, does anybody have any problems with any
yeah,
of these?
alright, yeah, does anybody
Let's
have any
do it that way.
problem, we've got A, which is all the
Right.
general budget, B, which is affordable housing trust for 100,000,
Where are we at here?
we're on CPC.
It's page, start at page 7, Reg.
Oh,
It's, we're starting right here with A.
okay.
Okay,
Okay.
that's the general budget, which is what they have to do, the 10%, that needs to go to each area, and then their, administrative. Affordable Housing Trust grant for $100,000. The flagpoles installation and restoration for $6,700.
Let's see.
D is the Pawtucket Bond Vista View Restoration and Rehabilitation.
The only question we had on that one was whether the state was gonna kick in 50,000. You wanna hold that one off till we can find out more information?
When are you gonna find that?
I think Gary knows about that one, I believe.
Well,
doesn't he?
it's in the transportation bill. We're not gonna know until probably
After
the end
town
of
meeting.
June.
Yeah.
Alright,
Oh, is that the 50 grand?
but, okay, the way it's been structured in there,
For the fence.
if it's not used, it goes back.
Oh, they all do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they all do, yeah.
Okay.
But that one does have a sunset on it that's specifically in there.
Okay.
It's phase 2 of the rehabilitation of American Legion Park for 29.8. The West Street Soccer Field, phase 1 for 10,000, then the bylaw amendment.
We're gonna leave that.
So
Okay,
F. A through F.
Let's take them individually.
Okay.
Entertain a motion to recommend approval of ATM 14-29A, general budget.
So moved.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion, what is this one? ATM 14-29B, Community Preservation for Affordable Housing Trust Grant for $100,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion for ATM 14-29C, flagpoles installation and restoration in the amount of $6,700.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to recommend approval of ATM 14-29D, Pentucket Pond Vista View, restoration rehabilitation, in the amount of $62,000.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Well, I just have reservations. I don't want to spend 62 if the state is only giving us 50.
I have reservations on this, spending $62,000 for a very limited amount of residents that want the fence put down when the fence was put up a number of years ago for safety reasons.
Yeah, but if the state's gonna
Yep.
kick in 50, I can live with that, but, you know, like,
Well, this was the vote. I think we either agree or disagree with this. I don't think we can recommend lower.
No.
No, we can't. We can't recommend removing or whatever this is by the CPC. Good night, gentlemen, thank you.
No, he's not leaving.
Oh, do you have a question?
I'm from the CBC,
Hi.
so if anyone has questions, I'm here.
And you
Oh.
are?
James Davenport.
James Davenport, thank you. Questions?
You had, you know,
I
you and Reggie, you know.
I just don't agree with it, so.
no,
This is-
I'll be
I
voting
just,
yes.
I
I'm
won't
ba-
vote
I'm my
for it,
fence, I'm
that's all.
battling this out here. I'm not gonna, I have no battle on this fence.
I just,
The state's gonna pay it or CPC is gonna pay for it, I think.
I just don't think it should be fixed. I think it should be left the way it is.
Left the way it is.
I don't think there's any reason, because it's blocking some view. It was put up there for safety reasons a number of years ago.
Oh, I agree there's a safety issue around that flume. They have to do something when
Yeah.
the water goes down. The kids can't get to that, or we're gonna drop a kid down through there someday. That's for damn sure, so that's gotta be
I
safe.
guess what was the reason they did it in the first place? For that
safety.
reason,
Yeah.
for
It's
kids
for
wouldn't-
safety.
Yeah.
Jack
they-
put that in like about 10, 15 years,
Yeah.
10, 12 years ago?
Because the water goes down through there.
Year
The kids go down,
2000.
you're gonna lose a kid.
Yeah.
2000, was it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the fencing
So, and
around the flume's gotta stay. I think they're talking more about the guardrail and stuff beyond.
And that's 62,000 to take it down?
Well,
You're up there.
Yes.
so, I mean, if you have questions, please ask, but, so the CPC's, well, first of all, I'm James Davenport. I've been a CPC member for 6 years. I'm a resident of Georgetown for 10 years. I'm the historic commission's representative on the CPC.
Okay.
So the logic behind the pond view is it's everyone in Georgetown has the right to have a vote on the improved Vista view at that area. I don't know the history of exactly the fence, but the $62,000 includes re-engineering the entire area, putting up a new fence. The project expenses are led right now by Peter Durkee. So that's the cost of the basis of the $62,000.
It's for guardrails as well.
It's for guardrails. Again,
The
it's for
ones that are
engineering.
there
It's
are
for
non-functioning.
yeah. Whatever the take is on why the fence was there, that's really beside the point. It is an eyesore for the town, not just for the residents, and everyone has the right to vote to remove that town and improve Georgetown. It's not just the people who live there, it's all people. Those are all roads. Everyone has a right to walk there. Everyone has a right to be safe in that area.
There's a wildlife issue too.
And there is an environmental wildlife issue as well that has been raised by the town.
Is what is that?
I'm sorry?
What is the wildlife?
Yeah, so more specifically on that issue, there are animals, turtles, birds,
They can't get
ducks
across.
Yeah.
that either have gotten hit, they get stuck.
They get stuck in the
All
fence.
between the fence and. Okay.
The dilemma, I agree, right now is wondering what the state's gonna do. However, the basis of CPC's thought is enough people have brought this up this year where we can get a match. We'll go forth with the project this year, and it is leaning towards approval at the state level.
If the state only gives you 50 grand, is CPC going to kick in the other 12?
CPC kicking in 62 and the state's kicking in 50.
That actually, the table is 62, so it would have to be completely voted at the CPC to change the warrant article.
Is there any safety issues safety and well-being issues to residents as a resulting of this fence right now?
I believe so. I mean, I don't believe that it's been a couple weeks since I last visited the site, but it's not an area where you can literally walk safely in the area. So the re-engineering and the changing of the landscape is supposed to improve safety for both.
But there's no sidewalks down in that area anyway.
There's no
Well, the
room.
re-engineering is going to at least change the site. So I don't know how the dimensions are, but it is
I guess
going to
that's my
improve the
question, is
situation.
walking, I mean, it's just, there's no
There's no
sidewalk.
sidewalk.
There's no sidewalks anyway, so,
On Pond Street, yeah.
yeah,
Not
anyway,
down there.
so if you have re-engineered
It
and
is,
they
it
put a
is very
sidewalk, you're
narrow
gonna be
where
back.
that fence is.
Well, it's a narrow area.
Yeah.
I just said, the dimensions are going to change. So
Well,
I
they can't
believe
take-
that
they
the
can't take any
situation
more
is going to
property from
improve.
homeowners.
Yeah.
You can't take
That was
property
the
from the
issue.
homeowners.
That was the issue that, you know, if it is re-engineered, were all the people that supported taking down the fence gonna support having part of their front lawns taken away?
Yes,
That was the issue.
Mhm.
and I don't even know where the property lines are down
So
there.
that has to be done.
The other issue in terms of safety is the guardrails down at the far end, across from Mill Street, they are non-functional, as Mike says, they were not put in properly to begin with.
Oh, I agree with Mike, you know, there's a fence, there's an animal issue, there's a safety issue, there's issues. But,
To be honest with you, you know how I feel about it.
Yeah.
I think it's, you know, I agree that with Sandy that it's seems to only be benefiting a small group of people.
yeah.
But there again, you know, I've been down there lately, and it does remind me of being in prison.
It does, yeah, it does.
So
Yeah.
tell us, when were you in prison? Do tell, Donnie.
I just, from a safety standpoint, I do not see the fence changing significantly around the flume where the dam is
No.
right now. If
It
anything,
can't.
I see a larger fence
So
going.
it's gonna be
so
that
that
narrow
nobody-
there anyway.
Yeah, you can't get in there. They can't let people in.
It's an attractive nuisance.
Exactly. Now, as far as the roadway going the rest of the way, I can see an improvement happening there. I also can see we could spend the money and we could have a flood in 5 years and wipe out Pond Street, and we won't be driving down there at all.
The other issue that I had with it was that if you do take down the fence and you do put up a guardrail, you're inviting people to park there illegally to use that part of the pond.
That's his problem.
That's what I'm concerned about.
What's that? Oh,
Hey,
He's-
this is your
he's-
problem.
he's snoozing back there anyway.
You know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I believe that, Sandy, you said it earlier tonight, that, you know, sometimes you have to pay money to do things right. If it wasn't done right, I don't have the expertise years ago why it wasn't done right, but at the same time, I remind everyone, it's not just for the people who live there. It's part of the preservation and improvement of Georgetown.
I understand that. I'm fine.
And I guess then, is this something that needs to go through now, especially if it may be in the transportation bill?
Right.
That's what I was asking, is there any imminent health?
Oh.
If somebody crashes into the guardrail, are they going to end up in the pond?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Nothing's gonna hold them back. Hope they're
There's only
going now.
been one
There's still
accident
ice
there. There's only been one accident there, and the car did not go in the pond. Is that
Oh,
correct?
they
The
hit
fe- the
pole.
fence held the car from going in the
Yeah.
pond.
There was an accident many years ago on the corner of Lake Ave and Pond Street where a vehicle did enter the water, and that's what caused the curvature guardrail to be put up.
Yeah.
However, as everyone said, when that guardrail was put up, they skipped every other piling placement on the guardrail. If you drive by there, you can see holes. Sandy's familiar with the appurtenances. you can see holes where there should be a pole in the ground, but it goes every other. There's a pole, a space, a pole, a space, a pole. So the guardrail is not going to do what it's supposed to do.
Right. So, all right, so
There
if
was
the
no
guard,
guardrail there previously, that's what caused that vehicle to go in the water.
okay, so to make that safe, do we just need to put the posts in the
Fix the
holes?
guardrail?
Peter says it needs to be removed, it's not angled right, it's not in the proper position, it's not, it doesn't have the appropriate caps on it for some type of DPW regulation.
Okay, let's see if we can get I don't know where Peter is, he was gonna come
He was
tonight.
gonna come tonight, yeah.
Is that
He's
the
stuck in Boston, I texted him, it
firefighters?
says we're on.
Still-
Yeah, I
Oh,
second
is he?
your question, he
Yeah.
couldn't remember the funding source.
He didn't tell me
Okay,
that,
why
but
don't
he said
we-
he was stuck in Boston.
I'm entertaining a motion to rescind the motion?
Okay.
Okay, all right, we'll discuss that next week with Peter. Okay, let's entertain a motion to thank you, James, just
Yeah.
hang here for a while, I suppose.
Sure.
Entertain a motion to recommend approval of ATM 14-29E for the rehabilitation of American Legion Park Phase 2 in the amount of $29,800.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion, I don't know what this is, to recommend approval of ATM 1429F, West Street Soccer Fields Rehabilitation Phase 1 in the amount of $10,000.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Entertain a motion to recommend approval of ATM 14-29.
Where do you see that?
Wait a minute,
Oh,
wait a
no,
minute, wait a minute.
no,
Whoa,
that's-
back it up.
No, sorry, I back up. I didn't realize this was a new one. Okay, entertain a motion to recommend approval of ATM 14-30, Community Preservation Committee Bylaw Amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I'm sorry,
Um,
what is this?
This is, right now, the CPC is not authorized by the law, as I understand it, to review bills after they've, review bills that come in for payment. And this bylaw would allow them to do that.
But, Mike, could you please let us, once again, update on what the CPC law,
Was this the delayed payment?
this is
thing?
the delayed
Yeah,
payment
yeah,
issue.
Yeah, okay.
Well, yeah, we've discussed this at
Yeah.
the Board of Selectmen. The chairman of CPC has been before the board, and, you know, we just have to agree to disagree on the necessity of this. The chairman will tell you there's a lot more of it than just the, you know, the changes are more than just the approval of expenditures. But this all started with the DOR report a year and a half ago saying, hey, why is the CPC committee approving expenditures? They're not authorized by state law to do that. And it's an extra layer of bureaucracy that tends to delay the payment of these bills. I know the chairman and the other members will say, no, it doesn't, but in my opinion, it does. They really have a hard time meeting in the summer months and getting quorums, so they could go 2 or 3 months, you know, 1 or 2 months, sometimes even longer maybe, that these bills just sit there and don't get paid. Even with, so, I agree with the DOR that it's not necessary.
I know it came up at the selectmen's meeting of why does it have to do, like, go like this at public meetings? Why can't a representative of CPC be you know, to review the bills or whatever in case there's any question, but keep it going through the process and not have to worry about approving it at they're public meetings, but if there's a question, Mary would know who to call, Mary Town Accountant, to make sure that they were paid for properly.
But I mean, to Mike's point, and
Yeah.
I tell you from working with Camp Dennison, by the way, the CPC is the least of the problems of paying bills. They aren't terrible, I think.
Well-
But in my estimation, the bill payment cycle is way, way too long. I mean, I know at Camp Dennison, we've had people that refuse to do business with us because people don't get paid for 60 or 90 days. So in anything that will shorten that is good in my estimation.
So why does your committee feel this is necessary?
Sure. So I don't agree with one word that you said about the CPC delaying bills. I think that is one of the biggest myths that I've heard as a resident of Georgetown. I would hope that you would all agree that this is a checks and balance system where the CPC committee, if you also agree with other sentences in this paragraph, where it says the Community Preservation Committee shall keep a full and accurate account of all actions, we are a checks and balance of that fund. We are the eyes and the subcommittee members of, or the appointed members of the subcommittees where most, if not all, the invoices are created from. I've been a member of the CPC. I've said this 3 times now for 5 years. We meet twice a month. I think that's more than you guys meet. That's 120 meetings since I've been a member. Do you know how many meetings have been actually canceled? About 5. And I think more than half of those meetings that have been canceled were due to 3 snowstorms and maybe 1 or 2 Julys.
Do you pay bills at every meeting?
We pay bills at every meeting. It's actually, like you said, Mike, it's actually more responsible, and every subcommittee is guilty of it, for the subcommittees to get their bills on time. But if we have
subcommittees, what do you mean by the subcommittees?
Well, Georgetown Historical Commission, Open Space Committee. Those are the committees that actually are the eyes and the ears and the authors of the invoices.
Well, that's
Spending
that's the
authorities.
point.
That's the point.
Don't
So-
they review them? They're the ones that are, what did you say there?
Spending authorities.
They're the
But not every
spending
invoice.
authority.
But not every invoice. Not every invoice comes there.
What,
It
But
has to.
but you
It has
got,
to.
the role of CPC is to review projects, to put forward to town meeting and make a recommend approval. Once that happens, you're done. You have no, you're not, that was not intended for you guys to have authority over these projects in perpetuity.
I don't
that's-
see why you guys are so
do you
obtuse on
sign the
taking.
contract, or does the,
Selectmen.
Selectmen.
who signs the contract?
The selectmen.
Selectmen.
You haven't, so CPC never signs a contract?
How do you know the invoice is right? I mean, that's
Because
our
the-
argument.
That's the
spending
selectmen's
authority
The spending
knows
authority.
it's right. It's
The
you know,
spending
money that
authority.
they're responsible for.
How do you know that it's going into the right fund?
But if you're
How
not-
do I know the invoice? How do we know what invoices are not actually being submitted to the selectmen?
Mary will tell you what fund it's,
I
where
mean,
she's taking the money
you're
out.
assuming that the CPC is the only competent group in the
No,
town.
I'm not assuming that at
That
all.
sounds like it.
I said in the
I
very
would
beginning,
disagree with that. I don't think that's the case,
I
Jim.
didn't say that at all. I said we're a checks and balances
Oh, I understand
system.
the checks and balances, and I agree with you, you need to know what's going on. But when a warrant is turned into the town, all you need is that copy of that warrant. Mary tells you exactly where that money's coming out of which account.
Yeah, but, you know, again, the issue supposedly is that we don't meet enough to pay the bills on time.
He says he does, so.
And, we, you know, I don't,
They're meeting
I
twice
can't,
a month, they're paying bills
we
twice
are,
a month.
and even in the summer, we've been meeting, you know, it may have happened in the past,
The
but
twice
this
a month
past
isn't
year-
an issue for me.
Then-
It's anything that extends it
Yeah,
is an issue for me.
I find that the issue with me is
Sure.
they're not, the CPC committee is no longer, they no longer have responsibility for this project. The project now goes to the selectmen, the finance department, and the individual,
Whoever signs the
commissioners,
contract.
whoever signs a contract. I mean, it's just,
I
there's no, I understand the checks and balances, but
The town only pays their bills twice a month anyhow.
I understand, yeah, I know that.
So if they're meeting twice a month, then it should be, you should be turning these things around like that.
They get
They're
turned
turned
around
around the
really
next
quick.
day.
I don't think that turning them around for them is an issue.
It's when we
Truly, I
get
don't-
them.
It's
it
the
was
fact
like
that
one
they're
at-
doing it.
There was one at the last meeting where I noticed it was 6 weeks before we got it.
Right. So,
That's
and the
not
question
our
is why?
fault.
Right.
No,
Well,
I
But
agree with you.
then you get back to the DOR, the Department of Revenue. They're the ones who set up the CPC, correct? They're the overseers of the CPC in the state?
Yes.
Okay, and their recommendation is what, Mike?
Said they shouldn't be, yeah.
That the-
Basically what Jim said, their responsibilities end once town meeting votes and appropriates the money.
Okay.
Period.
So we have two different things going on here. We have that, and we have the fact that we take too long to pay the bills,
Oh,
which obviously is not the case.
Okay, so take that
So
apart.
you
but
take that away.
ta-
That,
just
that
take-
whole
okay,
pretext
take-
is gone.
Take that
I
away.
don't find it.
So
Once-
the
once this-
real issue is what you just said.
Right. Yeah.
What Mike just said.
Yeah. That's the issue
That's
for
the-
me.
that's the issue.
It
It's
isn't,
just-
it isn't the fact that it takes the CPC, because I said,
You no longer,
for
you're no
my
lo-
case, they're the best.
They're no longer
Actually,
authority.
you do them quicker.
CPC is no longer
But,
the authority of the
Yeah,
project.
It's just
And
just
You're the,
another.
you're the mechanism to make, you're the mechanism to see
give
if
the
a
money
project
out, yeah.
fits within the realms of CPC and to make recommendations for town meeting. You're not the authority to
Yeah,
oversee the project. That is, I'm coming from DOR and the law. That is not you as a committee's
It's a
view.
recommendation. I remind everyone and all the viewers that the CPC has been around for 14 years, so I don't think the system's broken. I don't know where the DOR's recommendation is. I don't know where Georgetown all of a sudden has decided to change it.
It's never, you've never had the right. You've never had the right, is the point.
Well-
And you're trying, and
Always
you're trying to
been-
take the right.
And you're
No, I
trying
don't
to
think
make-
we're
you're
trying to take
make
the-
it legal,
Yeah.
is what you're doing.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we are. I think we are trying to make
That is
sure
true.
that the fund,
Yeah.
yeah, we are actually trying to make sure that the accounts, the invoices are paid accurately, that they are in line with the warrant article. I understand that the legislation of Chapter 40 doesn't actually say that. This is how it's been done for 15 years. When a subcommittee member recommends a bill, all the CPC is doing is making sure the invoice goes properly to the selectmen.
I mean, we have a finance department to do that.
So you
That's
want to take
Mary's
actually
job.
more bureaucracy and go back to the subcommittees and say,
No,
is this
no,
invoice
no.
correct?
There is a process in place of paying bills,
Mary will
and
do
you
that.
guys are an extra step.
Mary will tell you. If there's
Mary,
something
that's
wrong with
what
a bill,
Mary's
Mary
job
tells you.
is.
Trust me.
Mary's job is to make sure that the invoices come in and they're properly against the particular account.
Mary is
That
legally
she's
bound.
the town.
She's
accountant.
the one who's legally bound to
Yeah.
make sure this is
Yeah,
right.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Already, she is legally bound to make sure every bill is appropriately paid and it falls within the letter of the law. She is the one who is legally bound, and the auditors will
That's right.
make
The
us
auditors
very
sit with her.
aware if she's not doing things legal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the
Right.
purpose of the
Yeah.
auditing, the
Yeah.
auditors. So, are we ready to, any more discussion? Are we ready to take a vote on this?
You guys, I mean, I'm ready.
I don't-
Or unless you wanna wait till next week and
I
have
don't-
more
I don't-
discussion?
This adding this wording, this is adding wording to the, giving them more, I don't agree with it, sorry. That's taking authority away from Mary,
Yes.
and I don't agree
No,
with that.
it's not taking away from her, it's giving
Giving-
them,
it's
giving
making
them
more-
a
it's-
bylaw
it's-
of authority.
Yeah, I don't agree with it. If they're paying their bills every 2 weeks like they say they are, then that's the best thing. If it's the subcommittee's problem, well, you need to get those subcommittees.
I'm not even gonna entertain that. There's no issue with the CBC. It's,
Well, if you're not getting the information in enough time with me and her, I would entertain talking to those people who aren't getting you the bills in time.
But what this is
Yeah, but
now is
that's
that this
not-
is
yeah.
in, and I guess that they.
That's a
this-
separate issue, I agree, that's
It's
a
a
But
separate
they,
issue.
but
It
that,
is a
but
separate
that,
issue,
and, right, but that shouldn't be happening.
Shouldn't, no.
It shouldn't be happening. That's what that's what's coming down to is you are actually overstepping what the law allows you.
we're not actually,
No, we
the,
weren't overstepping.
No.
There was no mechanism to, either way, there was nothing. We filled a void, in my opinion. And all we're doing is literally codifying what we were doing beforehand.
I don't think,
Okay,
I don't,
guess- I think we disagree, that we think the mechanism was in place to do all that
Yeah.
through the
I
town
think,
finance department.
I think the CPC committee, there wasn't a void. I think the CPC committee has created something, created a step, and overstepped their authority above the law, to create this, to make it necessary for them to approve bills, when it wasn't necessary at all, and it isn't necessary. There isn't a void.
I'm not disputing
Right.
your
You're-
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not disputing that we're actually a middleman, but I think overstepping is kind of for the lack of a better word,
I think
at
that.
this hour.
Thank you, and for lack of a
Right,
better
for
word,
lack of a better word, at 9:30 at night in this hot room,
I-
it might be, it was certainly meant as a checks and balances,
Yeah.
and we understand that we're not the final vote. That's what the town is, that's what Mary does, but
Right.
we know the projects better than anybody in this town, and
Well,
all
not,
we are
not
trying
better
to.
than the authority
Right.
that wants the money. And you guys can
Oh.
get a report. I mean, I think that's,
I understand that,
you
but
could get a
I think
report.
the other issue was, there was an unfortunate choice of words where immediately our board was blamed for this, that, and the other thing without any validity to it. We have a pride in what we do, just like we have a pride in here in what we do. We meet more than the selectmen meet.
We meet twice a month.
twice a month.
And
And so-
but as a result of it, but the board is now trying to change a bylaw.
I agree, and, I think we're going to have to, at least I'm gonna quietly back out, because it seems like the die is already cast for this one.
Right.
But again, I would say this, that I think the way this was handled, in terms of the justification of it, where fingers were pointed immediately at the CPC, was not a good decision.
Okay, I agree with that point. He has a very good point there. Other people have dropped the ball. Doesn't matter who. But if they, like they said,
But-
if you're
but the
turning the
question-
bills around every 2 weeks,
But,
you
right.
can't get any better than that.
Right, but the question is this article, is this bylaw
This is not gonna-
necessary?
I don't think
Yeah.
this is gonna change anything, even the way it is. I disagree with this.
I do too.
Everybody ready to vote, or?
Yep.
I'll entertain a motion to recommend that's already on the table.
Yeah,
Yeah, you already did that.
I did that
Okay,
already.
all those in favor? Opposed? Nay?
Nay.
Nay? Nay? Okay. 0-8. It does not,
Did we do that right?
yes.
Okay.
Fingerprinting.
I think you all should be.
I am.
We have been.
So you gonna tell us about jail or what?
Does this have any financial implications or anything?
It does not.
Chief, do you wanna come on up?
Sure. Back in 2012, there was a new Mass General Law enacted. It is late, isn't it? Chapter 270, Section 25, where cities and towns would have to register and permit certain licensees, such as ice cream trucks, peddlers, things like that. Well, included in that legislation was the need or possible requirement for fingerprinting. In addition to that, the second component is when you check someone's criminal record and there are fingerprints on file, you need specific permissions under this law to have the ability for the police, state police, FBI to check those fingerprints through Corey. So there was a bit of a gap between the Mass General Law and local cities and towns. So what the General Counsel did with Mass Chiefs in implementing the recommendations for the ice cream truck vendors, peddlers, everyone that's listed on the top here, public conveyance, second-hand article shops, in the event there is a need for fingerprinting in the future, they recommended here, it just, and I'll just read what he put in our advisory. When it comes to fingerprinting or checking records for ice cream truck vendors or other licensees, a city or town must have passed a local ordinance or bylaw in order to do so. So we took the sample policy that was provided to us as chiefs of police, and it's already Mass General Law.
But you just need to
But
put
like,
it in.
but like many many statutes, there also has to be a local ordinance, so it has to have a bylaw component to it. It does mention fees and everything, I think, during the vetting process. We don't do fingerprints for fees right now, because we don't have the equipment. It's all electronic, it's a $20,000 unit. We rely on the state police identification section to do that for us. People are fingerprinted during a custody, an arrest or something like that. So the bylaw really doesn't pertain to any revenue generating or expenses at this time.
Well, we are an advisory board. Are you looking as a chief of police for us to take a vote on this?
Sure.
Hey, is this being commonly, voted
Yes.
on? Is it? It's pretty common?
Yeah, this recommendation came from our general counsel in the Mass Chiefs Association. So many communities are coming forward and adopting this fingerprint policy. And it's not necessarily, like I say, physically taking fingerprints. It's utilizing records of fingerprinting when you actually do a check, a query check, a criminal records check on people with the state police, with the FBI, and with your local police department, which would be us. And we've already passed a solicitation bylaw in Georgetown. We don't require fingerprints yet, but we possibly could. This would close that loophole. And in addition to the fact that we have not processed an ice cream vendor license or permit yet, the selectmen voted last year to give my office the authority to approve that as well. I would need this in place in order to issue that ice cream vendor truck permit.
Stopping ice cream in Georgetown.
Are these the only
That's criminal.
different vendors we're talking about, or are there other vendors as well?
No, the 7 listed would be pursuant to Mass General Law 270.
Okay.
Nothing else. People will come into the police department for fingerprints if they're a stockbroker or some type of a business that requires fingerprinting. We do provide that service at times, but with the new electronic systems that the state police have, it's far more accurate, it's more precise, and there's no repeat coming back if there was a smudge or a smear. And the Mass State Police have agreed to help us with that, and the identification section in Danvers handles that.
Don't you already have an electronic fingerprinter?
Us?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, you did?
No, we don't. Ink pad and paper, just like you
Just
see on
like the
TV.
old days.
Just like you see on TV. And we hope to someday, but
You have it for verifying.
not at the PD, no. If you're thinking when you did your pistol permit,
Yeah.
and you put your finger on that little screen.
No, yeah.
That's not, that's just a fingerprint verification
Fingerprint
for
verification.
your, and they no longer do that.
Really?
Yeah, so next time you come in, you won't do that anymore.
Because you won't get one.
That's right. If you don't pass this.
Good question.
Yeah.
I'll entertain a
All
motion
set?
to approve ATM 14-31 fingerprinting bylaw.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, the rest here, Mike, are we talking about planning?
This is all planning.
Yes, the ATM 1432 was both recommended by both the planning board and the ZBA not to go forward with it. Selectmen haven't, they were waiting for a final report from the planning board. My guess is it won't appear on the
warrant.
Oh, good, because it's taken up most of it.
What about solar energy
And then-
facilities?
Yeah, we're also waiting, I think Howard just gave the report to Janet today, and it'll be discussed on the 14th, along with the marijuana legislation as well.
Are any of these have financial implications at all?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right.
Why don't we wait then
Yeah,
for
why don't we
these?
wait, and then we can, everybody, because we didn't have all this detail before, correct?
Yeah, we just got the language today.
Okay, so why don't we, everybody take a look at this before next week, and if we feel as a board that we should offer our recommendation or an opinion, we can take a vote next week.
Even though it doesn't entail money, I think we should take a vote on these anyway.
That's,
Yeah, we
that's,
can, yeah, we don't have to, but we can.
we don't have,
certainly-
that's exactly,
I
that because,
understand,
yeah,
but I think, we're here as an advisory board.
absolutely.
So,
But now we've just got stuff to review. Okay, so Mike, you have I'll email this off to you and email off to the board for everybody to see. I will
There are
get-
2 others, Sandy.
Oh.
Street acceptance.
Oh, I'm sorry, back page, street acceptance.
ATM 1439, this technically has minor,
Chapter 90,
yeah,
okay. And submitted by planning, and is Peter good with this? Do we know?
Oh,
I don't know. I found that.
I don't know.
Very back page.
No.
Okay, why don't we wait?
Why
and
don't we
ask
wait?
Peter?
Yeah.
Harmony Lane and.
Where is
885
Harmony
Elm
Lane?
Street?
Yeah, 5 Elm Street is a citizen's petition.
Oh, that's, yeah,
That's removing the designation
Yeah.
from commercial.
that's okay.
That has to appear on the
It has to
ballot,
appear,
on the warrant.
yeah.
So you wanna take a vote on that now, or do you wanna wait until next week?
What is it?
The last one we could vote on.
What is
The
it?
last one, it's just, it's the columns, the greenhouse,
Changing
the
from
columns.
commercial to residential,
One,
one lot.
Yeah, the
One
the
house.
columns,
Yeah, we started work.
oh, that!
the columns.
Oh. Again, I think, I always thought that was illegal. Oh, it's because it's right next to each other?
Yeah.
Oh,
Not
okay. Fine.
It's not spot zoning.
It's not spot zoning because it's
moving the-
contiguous.
The zone,
Okay.
Back to where it was before.
Is that right?
Yeah, cause when they bought
Yeah.
that house, then they moved
See.
the zone that way, right? When-
So these guys want to make a private residence out of it, or tear it down? or
No,
what?
they're rehabbing it.
Oh, they're rehabbing.
The only thing, and I believe they took care of it, they're not, it doesn't interfere with the buffer that they are putting up with them.
What was that?
That's my, I think it's my phone, I don't know. A buffer from, the building supply to them, they don't have to change anything with that, right?
No, they shouldn't, correct? I think planning tried to.
Oh, is that why it's a citizen's petition?
yeah, it's a petition, so nobody has really looked into it. Oh, well, yeah, no, I think the planning board had,
Thought the planning board wanted to change.
no, well, you can't change the language, you can't, it has to show up as written. I haven't heard any comments from the planning board.
I thought they approved this.
Okay, you want to, you're not going to do it?
No, we'll wait until next week.
Oh, okay. Fine. I'm good with that.
And
I was
entertain a
all set to
motion to
go.
adjourn.
So moved, second, whoever.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for joining us, 9:45.